Early morning, just after dawn. Shane stepped out of the inn, the crisp air brushing against his skin as he made his way toward the Adventurers Guild. Vivian's team should be regrouping today. I wonder what mission we'll get this time. He mused, hands in his pockets as he walked. But the moment he entered the guild's first-floor hall, Shane sensed something was off. The normally laid-back atmosphere had been replaced with buzzing tension. The place was packed, more so than usual, with adventurers murmuring in hushed but urgent tones, all centered around one topic. He didn't have to listen long to catch fragments of the conversation. "You're serious?" The entire southeast wilderness split in half. I heard even a mountain was cleaved straight through. That can't be real. It is. The Night Order and the Guild's investigators confirmed heavy traces of residual magic in the area. So it wasn't natural? The leading theory is that it was done by a magical sword. A magical sword? You're joking. Not at all. They say only something like that could have caused such a clean, destructive path. It's terrifying. No way. If that's true, then who the hell could have swung it like that? Shane kept his expression neutral, but inwardly, he let out a long sigh. So they've already narrowed it down to a magical sword. These people are sharper than I gave them credit for. He slipped past the murmuring crowd and headed up the stairs, thinking to himself, let's just hope they don't connect it to me. That would get messy fast. At the top floor, he entered the familiar room where Vivian's team usually gathered. As soon as he opened the door, he was greeted with a not-so-friendly face. "Good morning, Shane," Vivian said with an angelic smile that somehow felt like a dagger. "Mind giving us a little explanation?" Shane froze. This isn't good. His eyes flicked over her shoulder. TL was silently sipping tea. Lu Muya sat timidly in the corner with worried eyes, and Marika looked like she wanted to say something, but didn't dare. What's going on?" Shane asked, trying to sound innocent. No one answered him. Or rather, they all refused to answer. Lu Muya quickly lowered her head. Marika looked away. Only TL spoke, her tone flat. "Word got around about what you did yesterday." Shane's heart skipped a beat. Don't tell me they figured out it was me who. Before his mind spiraled too far, TL added with a sideways glance. "The Night Order came this morning. They were looking for Vivian. Apparently, someone reported that you subdued a suspicious person in town yesterday." "Oh, that," Shane mentally exhaled. "Not the sword." "Good." Vivian narrowed her eyes, studying him like a cat cornering a mouse. "Then what did you think I meant?" "And nothing," Shane said quickly, waving his hands. "Anyway, yes, I did deal with that suspicious guy. What's the problem?" Vivian took a step forward. "The problem is what you told the Night Order. According to their report, you said you used a magic tool given to you for self-defense by a senior from your team. I never gave you anything like that, Shane." The tension in the room spiked. Shane, unfazed, shrugged. "I didn't say you gave it to me. I said it was from a senior on the team." "That's technically true." Vivian narrowed her eyes. "Are you saying someone else on the team gave it to you?" Her gaze turned to the others. "I didn't give him anything." Lu Muya waved her hands in a panic. "Me neither." Marika quickly added, "I don't even own a magic tool like that." Vivian's eyes finally landed on TL. Before she could say anything, Shane pointed a dramatic finger. "It was TL." "Huh?" TL blinked, stunned. Vivian looked surprised. "TL." Even Lu Muya and Marika gasped. TL opened her mouth, but before she could deny it, she noticed Shane behind Vivian, clasping his hands together in a silent "please help me" gesture. She hesitated, then sighed. "It was me," she muttered, clearly annoyed. Vivian studied her with raised eyebrows, but eventually smiled. "Well, that settles that," she said. "I won't press further." Shane exhaled a breath of relief for the third time that morning. TL gave him a sharp glare behind Vivian's back. Shane smiled weakly in return, mouthing, "I owe you." The others were still, clearly stunned. TL actually lent him a magic tool. Lu Muya whispered. "I didn't even know she used those," Marika added. Vivian's gaze lingered on both of them, then shifted back to Shane, her expression softening ever so slightly. "In any case," she said, "you actually did some good. The Night Order confirmed the man you subdued was likely a member of the old Demon Clan faction." Shane's smile vanished. "What?" Vivian nodded. That's what they believe. There's strong evidence linking him to them. You might have stopped something serious. Shane stared at her, processing the implications. The old demon clan? What the hell were they doing here? The old demon clan faction. Shane echoed the words quietly in the private meeting room. The moment they left his mouth, the atmosphere shifted. Across the room, TL's posture stiffened. Lu Muya instinctively shrank back in her seat, and Marika's usual cheer faded into a tense silence. The air felt heavier, like everyone had simultaneously stopped breathing. Yeah, definitely not a good thing, Shane thought, frowning. Vivian, noticing the unease, took it upon herself to explain. The old Demon Clan faction is an extremist group that splintered off from the main Demon Clan, she said calmly, yet with a weight behind her tone. They believe that the current Demon Clan has become soft, twisted from its original roots. In their view, the Demon Clan has betrayed its legacy. Shane absorbed her words, nodding slightly. They think making peace with the humans and divine races is weakness, right? He asked, already guessing the core of it. They want to return to the glory days of bloodshed and conquest. Exactly, Vivian confirmed with a wry smile. They see the human and divine races as the enemy who toppled the Demon King. So now they want to correct the course of history through violence and chaos. Shane remembered the cold, contemptuous glare from the man he'd taken down the day before. That expression hadn't just been anger. It had been pure hatred. Yeah, that guy definitely had that vibe. Like everything around him was filthy and beneath him. Vivian raised an eyebrow. That guy. Just someone I ran into yesterday. He was carrying a portrait, remember? Shane replied vaguely, brushing the comment aside. I assumed that's who he was after. Yes, Vivian said. He infiltrated the city with the goal of finding the person in that portrait. Shane's eyes narrowed. But why? He wondered. What connection did the old Demon Clan faction have with that mysterious person? And why would they go so far, hiding among their supposed enemies, just to find them? He wasn't the only one thinking it. I heard the old Demon Clan faction has caused all kinds of disasters before. Marika spoke up. Terrorist-level stuff. Are they planning something similar in Lemidgen? I hope not, Lu Muya said, shivering. You don't think that celestial event yesterday, the one that split the wilderness, was their doing, do you? Shane flinched. And here it comes. As if reading his thoughts, Vivian glanced at him and said dryly, well, according to the Guild and the Night Order, yes. They believe the phenomenon was caused by the old Demon Clan faction. Tisich, Shane coughed, nearly choking on air. Right? I figured as much, TL muttered with a sigh. Lu Muya and Marika looked confused. Vivian, still looking annoyed, pressed on. The Guild's still investigating, but they've already identified the infiltrator. She paused, then added, it was Killian. The name hung in the air like a curse. Killian, Shane repeated. Vivian nodded solemnly. A former member of the Dragon Demon's army. One of the 6 great demons. Courtier to the Violent Dragon. One of the top 4 aides. He was level 77, once even considered a contender to become a 5th commander. She let the weight of that sink in before continuing. 10 years ago, he and 2 others orchestrated the royal capital assassination, one of the worst massacres in recent history. Nobles, knights, even members of the royal family were killed. Then he vanished. And now he's here, Marika murmured in disbelief. Exactly. And yesterday, Killian was defeated, taken down by a level 10 rookie, using a so-called self-defense magic tool. She fixed Shane with a glare that was somehow both impressed and exasperated. The Night Order was stunned. They came to me this morning, demanding answers, not about the fight, but about the magic tool. Why would such a powerful artifact be handed to a novice? They asked. Shane wiped his forehead. Oof. What they didn't know, of course, was that there was no magic tool. It had been a desperate bluff, and now it was spiraling into something far more complicated. Vivian crossed her arms. So, I told them the artifact wasn't mine. I said it was a sponsorship item, provided to you by none other than President Riley. Riley? Shane's eyes widened. The guild president? That's right, Vivian said. She has a habit of supporting promising new adventurers. If anyone could feasibly possess such an artifact, it'd be her. Vivian smiled faintly. Of course, I spoke with her beforehand. She agreed to go along with the story, and now she's curious. Shane froze. Curious? She said, and I quote, to subdue Killian and cause such a celestial disturbance. I like to meet him myself. I'm doomed, Shane whispered. Vivian gave him a pat on the back, clearly amused. That's the price you pay for punching a hole through the sky.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Shane had no inkling of the private agreement between Vivian and President Riley. All Shane could do was keep up a dry laugh while his mind raced, trying to conjure up a way to smooth over the situation. However, Vivian didn't seem intent on delving deeper. It appeared she only meant to give someone a light rap on the knuckles before she swiftly changed the topic herself. In any case, things are as they stand because of the phenomenon in the heavens and earth and the old Demon Clan faction. The situation in Limigian will likely get very busy, and President Riley is already considering the possibility of even bigger incidents occurring in the future. She is currently in communication with the headquarters of the Adventurers Guild in the royal capital. That was typical of the prudent guild president. What are we going to do about that person from the old Demon Clan faction? Marika inquired with unmistakable concern. Even though he's been subdued now, his level is so high. Are there people in Limigian capable of keeping him under control? This was a natural worry as well. After all, even within the entire Adventurers Guild, there are only 33 individuals whose level reaches or exceeds 70. And although this figure only accounts for adventurers, it's certain that there are more high-level entities in this domain and the kingdom. However, Limigian isn't considered a bustling city within the Mitra Kingdom, so finding someone capable of handling a Demon Clan member like Killian, with his level, is indeed difficult. Even TL couldn't help but speak up. Presently, the highest level in Limigian belongs to the Knight Commander of the Third Knight Order, Burin Mura, TL said coldly. Captain Burin, being the third son of Marquis Mula, who rules this domain, wields considerable power. He can be said to be the ultimate authority in Limigian, with only President Riley on par with him. But isn't his level not yet 70? Yes, Vivian nodded, adding, after all, Mr. Burin is only 28 years old this year. If he weren't the third son of the Marquis family, and if his talent were not the best among the Mula family's children, he wouldn't have been able to lead the entire Third Knight Order and be dispatched here to maintain order at such an age. The Mula family, as a Marquis household, is vast in both size and influence. It rules over numerous towns, including Limigian within its broad domain, as one might imagine. And under the banner of such a Marquis family are 3 Knight Orders directly subordinate to them, each boasting over 3,000 knights. The leadership of these nearly 10,000 knights is vested in 3 knight captains and 1 general. These 4 are the domain's most visible peak combat forces. Aside from the frequently roaming adventurers, locals with higher levels are almost non-existent. Given this context, the levels of these 4 are naturally quite high. Each knight captain must be at least level 70, while the general must be at level 80. Of course, these are conditions set by a Marquis family. For lower-tier nobility, such as earls, viscounts, and barons, the military strength within their domains naturally doesn't reach these heights. As for dukes, the highest rank among the nobles, available only to those who have served the royal family, their forces include at least 7 knight orders, with a minimum of several tens of thousands of knights. So, it wouldn't be surprising if every captain and the general within them have levels over 80. However, these are just the standards within the Mitra Kingdom. As a country established by the hero who once vanquished the Demon King, Mitra Kingdom stature on the continent is unparalleled, not something any ordinary nation can match. Not to mention other aspects. The minimum requirement to become a knight within a knight order is to be at least level 30. Those who don't meet this criterion are merely ordinary soldiers and guards. This shows how difficult it is to become a knight commander within a domain. Yet, the knight commander of the Third Knight Order from Marquis Mula's domain hasn't even reached level 70. The reason is that he is the third son of the noble family and his talent exceptionally high. So the Marquis family promoted him directly to Knight Commander of the Third Knight Order and deployed him to Lemidgen, ostensibly to maintain order, though also effectively to govern the town. Because of these reasons, Lemidgen's ruler is a Knight Commander. After all, he himself is a noble. Mr. Burren's current level has reached 68. He should be able to hit level 70 smoothly before he turns 30, right? Vivian said. Back when Lemidgen was celebrating his appointment, all the citizens were overjoyed. Within a domain, besides the central city, other cities and towns are governed by peripheral families or vassals dispatched by the ruling noble family. The military strength of these places naturally can't compare to that of the domain's central city. In the case of Marquis Mula's domain, the highest military force in some towns doesn't even reach level 60. Under such circumstances, with such a high level and esteemed identity, a direct descendant from one of the three major knight orders of the domain coming to govern Lemidgen, how could the citizens not be elated? But this time, Lemidgen's highest war power was clearly not enough to cope with the situation. The opponent is a level 77 expert from the Demon Clan, and he was once a talented individual under the Dragon Demon. The large-scale assassination event in the royal capital 10 years ago is enough to show that this is not someone ordinary people can handle. When TL said this, she glanced at Shane without leaving a trace. We're lucky someone was able to subdue him this time, but next time might not be the same. The implication was not difficult to understand. I know. Vivian nodded again, speaking solemnly. President Riley has already spoken with Mr. Bellin. They should have some arrangement, and we just need to do our job. Upon hearing this, everyone was momentarily startled. Our job. Shane also voiced his confusion. Vivian's expression became serious. Actually, President Riley has entrusted our team with a mission. Vivian said she will take care of the matters related to the old Demon Clan faction and the celestial anomalies, while we need to find the person the old Demon Clan faction has their eyes on. Upon hearing this, the team members became solemn. Find her. Only Shane's eye twitched, leaving him speechless. Unaware of Shane's reaction, Vivian continued to speak. The existence targeted by the old Demon Clan faction is within Lemidgen, and this alone is a very unstable factor. So, we must find her, clarify her purpose for coming to Lemidgen, and even understand the whole reason behind it. This is the mission President Riley personally issued to us. This means that today, Vivian's team's task was just that. The mission's level is Platinum, and depending on the situation, it might even be elevated to Mithril level or even Blackluster level. This was undoubtedly a high-level mission that the entire Vivian's team had only taken on a few times. But how should we find her? With so few of us, if we're looking to find someone in Lemidgen, it would be better to leave it to the Night Order. Lu Muya and Marika spoke in turn. Only TL lowered her head slightly. Then she spoke. I have a clue. Saying that, TL took something out from beneath her black robe. Seeing that item, Shane's eyes widened and he cursed inwardly. Now, he had really walked into a trap. About an hour later, the members of Vivian's team, having left the Adventurers Guild, arrived at a secluded corner of Lemidgen, walking down an abandoned road that saw no travelers. Vivian eyed the twisting, dilapidated path and turned to look back at TL. Are you sure this is the place? She asked TL for confirmation. If the address up there isn't wrong. TL replied indifferently. But this place doesn't seem like a place where people could live. Lu Muya timidly expressed her view. I've never heard of such a place here either. If one considered only a hiding spot, though, it would indeed be perfect. Marika seemed somewhat nervous too, gripping her magic wand in front of her all the while. Like this, the members of Vivian's team discussed the matter with utmost caution. Only Shane remained silent, following behind everyone else, displaying an attitude of complete detachment. After TL had mentioned having a clue about their target, Shane had consistently acted this way. None of the others seemed to notice anything out of the ordinary, and thus they followed the address provided by TL to this place. But as Lumuya said, this place hardly looked inhabitable at all. It more closely resembled a wasteland frequented by wild beasts and demons. Even a slum would likely be better than this. Shane found it even more inconceivable, wondering why such a place would exist within a town. Could it be an undeveloped area? With such questions, under normal circumstances, Shane would probably have already asked the members of Vivian's team. But today, Shane simply wanted to keep quiet, acting like a small, helpless, pitiable child. In this situation, Vivian made a decision. "Anyway, let's go inside and take a look," Vivian said softly. "Otherwise, without any clues, we'll have to resort to extreme measures." Originally, Vivian had planned to resolve this matter with money. According to her, she knew several individuals akin to information brokers. As long as the price was right, they would take action, though it would definitely take a fair amount of time. Now, since TL had a clue, that was naturally better. You're right. Let's go inside and look then." Lumuya and Marika both complied. Thus, the group proceeded further in together. However, to be on the safe side, Vivian, serving as the main tank, went to the front, taking down her heavy tower shield, adopting a defensive stance. Lumuya stayed by Marika, the mage, serving as her guard, leaving only Shane and TL to take up the rear. This finally gave Shane the chance to get close to TL. Shane tenderly said, "Miss TL, may I ask you a question?" Shane was finally ready to voice his query. However, TL remained completely indifferent. "You want to ask why I have that clue, right?" TL said without turning her head. "You're truly perceptive," Shane humbly said. "If you could enlighten me, I would be eternally grateful." "Don't use that kind of strange terminology. It makes people uncomfortable," TL stated, still indifferent. "I just happened to pick it up." "Happened to pick it up?" Shane confirmed cautiously. "Are you sure? Does certainty really matter?" TL replied with an unfaltering tone. "Unless I tell you I was there at the time, no matter how I phrase it, you'll still have your doubts, right?" Shane had nothing to say, so he changed the subject and asked in a low voice, "Then how did you confirm that the address on that thing was the person the old Demon Clan faction is looking for, and also our target?" This was a very strange matter. Logically, TL shouldn't know who that show-off was looking for, and only Vivian might have seen the portrait that the show-off was holding. But even she shouldn't know that the person in the portrait could be found using the clue in TL's hands. Yet, Vivian unconditionally trusted TL and brought everyone here without asking for any reason. How TL connected that clue with the person in the portrait was something Shane really couldn't figure out. No, there was one possibility he could think of. It was just that Shane really hoped it wasn't that possibility. Unfortunately, this world is full of things that don't go as one wishes. Weren't they admitting to being a fugitive who had escaped to Lamidjan during your standoff? TL spoke shockingly. If so, it's very likely that person is the one the old Demon Clan faction is looking for. This reasoning was indeed sound. Regrettably, it was exactly what Shane least wanted to happen. After all, it indicated a problem. "So you've been watching all along?" Shane felt like all the mysteries had been unraveled. Why did TL, knowing her apparent level and strength were insufficient, still teach him the magical sword? Because she had seen Shane's true strength. Why did TL, after Shane met the conditions for learning the magical sword and caused that earth-shattering anomaly, only show shock and not question it? Because she knew about Shane's special nature. On that night, under the Mangar mountain range, when Shane returned to camp, Vivian told him that TL had gone out to patrol the area. So, TL must have seen Shane outside the camp at that time, as well as a secret, right? "Let's get one thing clear, I wasn't deliberately tracking you," TL threw out. "You weren't looking too well at the time, and Vivian worried that you wandering around alone might encounter danger. So she asked me to follow and secretly guard you." Vivian, Shane was momentarily stunned and quickly asked, "Does even Vivian know?" "I'm not sure. At least I haven't told her," TL stated directly. "But judging by Vivian's reaction, even if she didn't find out as directly as I did, she must have noticed something special about you. Otherwise, she wouldn't have ignored the fact that you were the culprit behind that anomaly." These words made Shane very uncomfortable. In other words, Was the identity he thought he had hidden so well actually known to Vivian and TL already? Even worse, could there be more people who knew? Shane really wanted to curse. Fortunately, TL informed him of this. Don't worry, I haven't told anyone. Not even Lumuya or Marika, and Vivian definitely hasn't revealed it, TL said indifferently. Your identity is too sensitive in today's era and situation. If it got out, let alone anything else, the old Demon Clan faction would definitely target you first and then seize the opportunity to disrupt the rare peace we have. It's a significant matter, and we all have a sense of propriety. Is that so? Shane let out a sigh of relief and also sighed. I really appreciate your trouble. Don't worry about it, TL replied nonchalantly. We're doing it for ourselves as well. As Shane and TL were having this covert conversation, the three people ahead suddenly stopped. It looks like we've indeed found a right place. Vivian stared ahead and made her conclusion. In that instant, including Shane and TL who were still conversing privately, everyone in Vivian's team turned their gaze forward. But in the next second, everyone couldn't help but pause. There's nothing here, Lumuya muttered in bewilderment. Yes, in front of everyone, apart from the uniformly worn-out road, there was nothing that could help Vivian confirm the target's location. Wait, only Shane, relying on his magic perception skill, clearly sensed something peculiar about this place. Vivian looked forward and spoke to everyone. There isn't nothing here, it's just that we can't see it. Vivian's words immediately received affirmation from the mages in the team. I can feel the magic power flowing obscurely here. Marika seemed to realize something and said in sudden enlightenment, Could it be a barrier? Correct. Vivian burst out laughing and said, There must be a barrier set up here. And it's a very high-level barrier, TL said coldly. Shielding, concealing, protecting, and confusing. Just the effects that come to mind surface-wise are already 4. That means, Lumuya uncertainly said, Is it really here? The answer was quite obvious. If it wasn't here, why would such a high-level barrier appear out of nowhere? Without any clues, who would believe it? So we found the right place. Vivian continued looking forward, then turned to Marika and asked, Marika, can you break this barrier? Marika suddenly showed a troubled expression and said, Such a high-level barrier, even in the elf country, is rare. I'm not very confident. Then, can we directly destroy the barrier? TL looked at Marika and said, If we use the magical sword, we should be able to forcibly break the barrier. The magical sword was not just an extremely powerful skill, it could also, by its nature, inflict actual damage on non-physical, immune to physical attack entities. As a barrier was also a non-physical type of barrier, if the magical sword's power was sufficient, using it to cleave through the barrier was completely feasible. Marika considered for a moment and was about to nod. Just then, I think it's better not to do that. Shane, who had been staring at the direction of the barrier from the beginning, suddenly spoke up. Marika couldn't help but be stunned. Lumuya also expressed surprise. Both Vivian and TL hesitated for a moment, turned their heads, and looked toward Shane. What's wrong? Vivian asked seriously. Did you notice anything unusual? It was clear that Vivian highly valued Shane's opinion. However, this time, Vivian might have overestimated Shane. I'm not very familiar with barriers and don't have the related skills, so it's not that I discovered anything unusual. Shane shook his head, his tone weary, but if I'm not mistaken, this barrier might have been deployed using space magic, and even a magical sword cannot simply cut through space itself, right? A space magic barrier? Vivian exclaimed. Is that true? No, really? Marika similarly jumped, saying, Does that mean the person who deployed this barrier can use space magic? Space magic, Lumuya said, trembling. Isn't that a very rare and highly difficult kind of magic? Oh, Shane's eyes shifted slightly, inquiring, Is this kind of magic very difficult? The person who responded was not Marika or Vivian, but TL, who seemed to have remembered something and fell into deep thought after hearing Shane's words. Space magic is famously known for its high difficulty and rarity. It's said to be a magic system personally created by the Demon King, and even among the Demon Clan, only a very small number of high-level beings are involved with this series. TL spoke gravely. The human race has seen far fewer users of space magic. Finding even 10 from history would be difficult. Yes, Marika picked up TL's point, nearly shouting, in the human race, once someone who can use space magic shows up, they immediately receive treatment akin to a state guest, are invited into the royal palace, and become an exclusive court mage for the royal family. Even the divine race pays special attention to those who can wield space magic. Well, that's a common setting, Shane muttered after a long silence, then sighed. After all, it involves space. Rare and highly difficult seems justifiable, understandable. Unfortunately, while Shane could understand, the others couldn't. If the target is a high-level mage capable of using space magic, our trip here might become problematic. Vivian took on a solemn tone, muttering to herself, should we return and make extensive plans? Evidently catching a glimpse of the target's strength, for safety reasons, Vivian was reluctant to just barge in. The others likely shared the same thought. I agree. Marika was the first to express her stance, saying the opponent is a space magic user, and we don't know if they have companions. Rushing in might lead to our complete annihilation. I'm fine with either, TL considered briefly, then said indifferently. Since even the magical sword can't break through this barrier, I have no other ways to confront it. I also agree. Lumuya raised her hand, speaking softly. Just barging in like this seems very impolite. Considering everyone in Vivian's team was cautious of acting rashly, it was clear just how high space magic was regarded in their minds. This scene made Shane scratch his cheek. Shane hesitantly asked, do we absolutely have to meet this person? That question caught everyone's attention. Yes. Vivian also looked at Shane, and after observing him for a while, she nodded firmly, saying, we must properly talk with this person. This was clearly a pressing issue. Shane sensed her determination from Vivian's tone. Thus, Shane crossed his arms and closed his eyes to think. Remembering the various ways Vivian had looked out for him and even helped hide his secret after discovering it, Shane mused inwardly. Repaying the favor here wouldn't be bad. With that thought, Shane opened his eyes and lifted his gaze ahead. Immediately, Shane took a deep breath. Checking the water meter, a loud shout burst from Shane's mouth, resonating around, lingering for a long while. Shane! Wow! What's going on? Shane's sudden shout had scared Vivian, Lumuya, Marika, and TL out of their wits. Especially Lumuya, a naturally timid dogwoman, who let out a cry of despair, as if all her fur stood on end, truly frightened. Sorry. Shane suddenly laughed like a child who succeeded in his prank, grinned, and said, I just wanted the person inside to come out and greet us themselves. I didn't mean to scare you. Though he said this, Shane's expression and tone gave off a feeling of insincerity. But what Shane had said was true. He really did want the person inside to come out on their own. Buzz! Suddenly, the uniformly shabby road ahead distorted without warning. No. It wasn't the scenery distorting, but the space itself. As if responding to Shane's call, the space first twisted like a whirlpool, then swayed open like a mirage. In such a situation, the plain old road seemed to fade like a color-drained painting and was replaced by another scene. Is this? Witnessing the scene unfold, everyone from Vivian's team stared wide-eyed. Even Shane raised an eyebrow, revealing an expression of astonishment. Because the scene before everyone had completely changed. The old road had turned into an advanced path paved with smooth, beautiful stone tiles. What used to be an abandoned area now boasted a garden filled with the songs of birds and the fragrance of flowers. In the garden, there were ornamental plants pruned with great care, a very imposing fountain, and a luxurious mansion sat amidst it all, looking like the estate of the great nobles. Extraordinarily pleasing to the eye. Vivian's team was stunned. A hallucination? TL murmured so beautiful. Lumuya couldn't help, but her eyes sparkled. How can there be such a mansion here? Vivian felt genuinely amazed from the bottom of her heart. Only Marika, as if greatly shaken, extended a hand to cover her cute little mouth, her voice trembling. The other party is a user of space magic. So could this mansion and garden have been transported here entirely from another place using space magic? Marika felt that she had seen the whole truth. But precisely because of this, she was astounded beyond measure. Beside her, Shane, having heard Marika's remark, was also momentarily surprised and looked back at the garden and mansion before him. Transported here entirely from another place using space magic? That was indeed incredible. That guy must be an even more remarkable person than he had understood. As everyone was caught in a relentless astonishment from the mansion ahead, a figure slowly approached. The figure wore a maid's attire, with long black hair reaching her waist and eyes as beautiful as rubies, tall and shapely, emitting a very astute and capable aura. "Welcome to Huaming Pavilion." With a voice devoid of ups and downs, the maid bowed to Vivian's team. Seeing this person, not to mention the other young girls, Shane and TL were taken aback. "Are you Lisha?" Watching this previously self-willed lady dressed as a maid to greet him, her aura completely transformed, Shane truly doubted his own eyes. But this time, Shane was mistaken. "I am Lasha, not Lady Lisha, just a maid of the Huaming Pavilion." The girl who claimed to be Lasha continued without a change in expression or tone. "Lady Lisha is inside the Huaming Pavilion, and she sent me to greet you." Upon hearing this, the members of Vivian's team exchanged looks. Shane gazed intently at the girl who called herself Lasha, scrutinizing her continuously. There was no helping it. This person, whether in terms of appearance, height, or overall look, was identical to Lisha. For a moment, Shane even wondered if this person was Lisha in disguise, playing a trick on him. But if that were the case, the lady's acting skill was too perfect, not just in expression, but also in demeanor, which had completely changed compared to what Shane had seen before. It was like heaven and earth. Could it be twins? Shane muttered this idea, which would delight countless homebodies. Lasha, however, ignored Shane's musings and maintained her composure as she spoke. "Please follow me." With that, Lasha gestured politely for them to proceed. The group did not move. "Vivian, sister, what should we do?" Lumuya and Marika both looked to Vivian, regarding her as their leader. "Shall we go in?" TL asked with the same indifference, her petite body seemingly tense, as if she was on guard. "What do you think, Shane?" Vivian pondered for a long while, but instead of deciding, she asked for Shane's opinion. "Let's go in." Shane was still observing Lasha. After a while, he breathed out and said, "Now, I'm somewhat curious about that person." After leaving these words, Shane led the way into the garden towards the mansion. Seeing this, Vivian and the others exchanged glances and followed Shane into the garden. At that moment, the unexpected occurred. Damn it! Shane, who possessed the magic perception skill, was the first to notice something amiss. His expression changed, and he suddenly turned and rushed towards Vivian and the others. Buzz! But at the same moment, accompanied by another vibration, the space began to distort. "Shane! Wait! Tisk!" The shouts of the girls rang out in unison. Under the distortion of space, Vivian, TL, Lumuya, and Marika vanished as if sucked into an invisible black hole, disappearing from the spot. Shane had just reached where the girls were. His hand almost brushed past Vivian's body before she disappeared, and he was left grasping at thin air. Consequently, Shane's emotions erupted effortlessly. "Playing tricks on me?" Shane turned his gaze toward Lasha, standing aside. His body's magic power, which manifested like dark flames, burst forth furiously. Due to this, the entire garden and mansion began to tremble, and the air issued lamenting vibrations. With such force, even a level 80 master might find it difficult to breathe. Yet, Lasha remained expressionless. "Please be assured, they have only returned to the Adventurers Guild," Lasha said impassively. "The lady only wanted to see you, not the others." At her words, the intensity of Shane's aura momentarily paused. In the garden filled with bird song and fragrance, Shane and Lasha stood facing each other, one radiating an aura of aggression, the other maintaining a calmness that was so exceptional it made the atmosphere oppressive. Shane attempted to determine the truth behind Lasha's words through her demeanor. After all, Shane was not naive enough to take the words of a stranger at face value. However, Lasha's behavior was too calm, showing no emotional fluctuation whatsoever and remaining indifferent under the oppressive force of Shane's aura. Although she exuded no sense of power and seemed just like an ordinary maid compared to Lisha, who was imbued with an incredible aura, it was highly unusual for someone like her to maintain such composure under Shane's explosive temper. Even Lisha probably couldn't have managed it, let alone a maid with no sense of power. Was she truly Lisha's twin sister? If so, why would the twin sister of the free-spirited lady assume the identity of her maid? I can't make sense of it. Shane kept sizing up Lasha until she confirmed that no matter what, she could not fathom her thoughts, and finally gave up. At that moment, Shane considered for a while, then slowly began to retract her magic power. Skill acquired. Oppression. Do you wish to learn it? In such circumstances, a new skill had been obtained by Shane. Shane glanced at it and discovered that it was an active skill that could apply both mental and physical oppression to all targets within a certain range by releasing magic power or one's own imposing aura. Perhaps Shane acquired this skill directly because she had taken such actions? Shane thought and decided to learn the skill for the time being. Don't let me find out you were just joking. Leaving these words for Lasha, Shane picked up her pace once more. However, this time, Shane was not preparing to enter the mansion, but stepped out of the garden and left directly. May I ask where you are going? Lasha, watching Shane do this, asked calmly. Shane, however, paid no attention to her and stepped straight out of the garden. I knew it. You're the type to play your cards in an unconventional way. With a voice that sounded somewhat resigned, the space around Shane distorted, and the scenery began to change. Shane only saw a blur before her eyes, and soon after, she was in a luxurious reception room. Lady, Lasha, who had been transported along with Shane, bowed to the owner of the reception room. You have worked hard, Lasha. The girl sitting at a reception table, identical in both form and appearance to Lasha, but dressed in a formal gown, smiled at Lasha and then turned to Shane. Since you're here, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Lisha rolled her eyes at Shane. In response, Shane felt almost no fluctuation in her emotions. The lady is fragile and precious, and also has quite the temper, choosing whom she wants to see and rejecting those she doesn't concern herself with. It's truly majestic. Someone like me, a lowly newbie adventurer, shouldn't overstep, so it's better to leave promptly, don't you think? Shane's words were clearly edged with sarcasm. It was just about sending those friends of yours back, and yet you walked out. You were the one who knocked. After all, who's really the temperamental one here? Lisha said with a teasing smirk. If it weren't for you, they couldn't even have broken the barrier outside and wouldn't have been able to set foot in here. See, my humming pavilion should already be considered a gain, right? Is that so? Shane replied, her voice still laced with sarcasm. Are we supposed to feel honored? Of course, Lisha said with an air of matter-of-fact, smiling meaningfully at Shane. Do you know what this humming pavilion used to be called? Shane furrowed her brow. Seeing this, Lisha smiled and revealed. In the past, this place was known as the Demon King Mansion. At those words, Shane's eyes flickered slightly. Demon King Mansion? Could it be? Yes, this place used to be an official residence utilized by the Demon King. It only became known as Humming Pavilion after I stole it. Lisha revealed, smiling in a way that shocked everyone. You stole the Demon King's official residence. Even Shane was rendered speechless by this statement. It was just on my way, Lisha replied nonchalantly, not elaborating further, only gesturing toward the seat in front of her. Sit down, will you? It's not every day you come by, so the least I can do is offer you a cup of tea. How about it? Shane didn't move, simply rolling his eyes around. Seeing this, Lisha's expression became wary. Please do not do anything neurotic again. I'm begging you. It's really testing my spirit and heart. Lisha nearly ground her teeth, continuing, "Don't you want to know why those from the old Demon Clan faction are looking for me? You and those girls must have had a purpose in coming here too, right? Talking with me shouldn't be a bad thing, should it?" The series of questions clearly conveyed how exasperated Lisha was with Shane's unpredictable actions. Shane rolled his eyes, then, somewhat reluctantly, moved forward and sat down across from Lisha. No sooner had Shane sat down than Lasha, who had been standing by silently, appeared beside him with a tray, holding tea sets without anyone noticing when she had moved. "Please, enjoy your tea." With a voice much calmer and cooler than that of a typical maid, Lasha spoke softly while lightly placing the steaming, fragrant cup of tea in front of Shane. This time, Shane made no other move. Protected by the skill Abnormal State Resistance, Shane had no fear of being poisoned in his tea. Therefore, Shane took the teacup and took a sip of the tempting tea. In an instant, the delicious taste spread within his mouth. "This is really good." Shane couldn't help but express his surprise, murmuring the thought aloud without realizing it. "Isn't it?" Lisha immediately responded as if she had been complimented, joyfully saying, "The tea that Lasha brews is considered the finest in the 3 realms." Lisha seemed to take pride in this fact. "You flatter me, lady," Lasha returned with a plain remark. "I'm merely stating the truth." Lisha, on that account, showed a strange stubbornness. Shane understood Lisha's pride. The tea indeed tasted delicious and fragrant, almost as fine as the one Shane had previously enjoyed at Ian's place. Being able to serve something on par with the tea used by the goddess to entertain guests, it was understandable to show off a little. Unfortunately, Shane wasn't really here for tea. Let's cut to the chase. Without any courtesy, Shane directly addressed Lisha. "The person the old Demon Clan faction is looking for. It's you, isn't it?" In response to this statement, Lisha simply smiled, her silence speaking volumes. It was a confirmation, for the portrait carried by Killian was of Lisha. That's why Shane, who had fought with Lisha, was said to have remnants of her magic power. That's why Killian followed this magic power to find Shane and interrogate him. It made sense that TL would have a lead. When down in the Mangar mountain range, Lisha had given Shane her address. The invitation containing the address was buried by Shane, but was picked up by TL, who had seen everything. And so, they were all able to find this place. Just like TL had mentioned, since Lisha claimed to be escaping into Lamigian upon their first meeting, it became quite intriguing as to why she was escaping. To need to escape meant there was someone pursuing her. Considering this, and recalling how the old Demon Clan faction people had come to her with Lisha's portrait, asking if she had seen her and where she might be, it was clear that the pursuers were indeed the old Demon Clan faction. The question was, why do the people of the old Demon Clan faction want to pursue Lisha? Could it be because you stole a residence left by the Demon King, and now they want to kill you for it? Shane speculated. How could that be? Lisha laughed dismissively. Those people, although they loudly claim to want the Demon Clan to revert to its original form and follow the will of the Demon King, and not disgrace themselves just to cling to life and coexist with the divine race and human race, are in reality just a group of ambitious and malevolent individuals who use this pretext to do whatever they please to satisfy their own selfish desires. They wouldn't go through such trouble for a mere mansion that has no practical use. The premise must be that the mansion truly has no use, right? Shane pointedly got to the heart of the matter. What if the mansion actually has a function that the old Demon Clan faction cannot ignore? That would give them a reason to take action to seize the mansion. Lisha naturally understood this reasoning. Yet, don't worry. Just as I said before, the mansion was merely stolen as an afterthought. While it does have some unique effects, it's still not enough to spark a struggle among those with ulterior motives. Lisha casually sipped her tea and continued, "They're fixated on something else, something I actually intended to steal, and it's not on the same level as this mansion. So, you do have something on you that the old Demon Clan faction wants." Shane looked directly at Lisha. "What is it? Why? Are you interested?" Lisha smiled with interest. "Indeed, as a hero, You can't simply ignore something that has attracted the attention of dangerous elements from the old Demon Clan faction, can you? Such a statement was met only with Shane's indifferent expression. Lisha raised an eyebrow. It seems not, Lisha muttered. You seem much less interested in these matters than I expected. Indeed, that was the case. To be honest, Shane had no interest in the old Demon Clan faction or the conspiracies surrounding Lisha. Initially, Shane had been avoiding Lisha precisely because he knew she was escaping. Given these circumstances, he really wasn't inclined to look into what dangerous things might be involved with Lisha or what the old Demon Clan faction's goals might be. These issues were unrelated to him, so why should Shane care? Thus, unless it was a direct threat to himself, Shane really didn't want to get involved in these troubles. But this is what it means to be part of the world, I guess, Shane said reluctantly. Since Vivian's team is quite concerned about this matter, I guess I won't be able to stay uninvolved. Vivian's team was clearly acting for the sake of this town and the kingdom. Considering the favors Shane had received from them, it seemed necessary to return those favors. To put it simply, that would be, whether it's you or the old Demon Clan faction, since this town has already been dragged into this. Unless I run away, I'm bound to get involved sooner or later, right? Shane said with a forced smile. Don't you think I should do something about it? Oh, Lisha perked up curious and asked, what do you plan to do? It's simple, Shane said bluntly. For instance, I could kill you right here, throw your stolen items and your ashes into the mountains for the old Demon Clan faction people to tend to your grave and such. No. Shouldn't the normal course of action be you and me teaming up to drive away the old Demon Clan faction people? Lisha's face stiffened, and he couldn't help but blurt out loudly, the real evil faction is over there. What kind of thought process is this for a solution? You're supposed to be a hero, not the Demon King. Clearly, even Lisha was nearly frightened by Shane's unique style. Only Shane felt nothing wrong with his statements. Who said a hero must always act in an upright manner? Shane responded, after all, a hero is just a tool summoned by the divine race from the other world to confront the Demon King, flatteringly called a savior of the world, crudely a weapon for war. It's all a matter of perspective. If it were the Demon Clan summoning the hero instead of the divine race, I guess hero would just be another term for demon, wouldn't it? You're not wrong there. Lisha was left dumbfounded, speaking as if he'd lost all strength. Has your line of thought always been this unique? What on earth were the divine race thinking when they summoned someone like you to this world? You're telling me. I'd like to know too, Shane admitted. Getting a chance to live again is certainly great, but lately I've started doubting whether it really is such a good thing. Right? Lisha found himself at a loss for words and finally managed to muster. Just a reminder, regardless of the power issue, if I wanted to escape, nobody could possibly kill me. As a user of space magic, if Lisha really wanted to escape, it would indeed be very difficult for anyone to catch her. Otherwise, whether Lisha could live unscathed and continue to live her carefree life amid the old Demon Clan faction, hunting her would indeed be a question. But this was precisely the question Shane wanted to ask. If you wanted to escape, you could have it any time, but instead, you chose to stay in Lamidjan, even knowing that people from the old Demon Clan faction were looking for you. What exactly is your purpose? Shane finally asked the question that concerned him the most. His intuition told him that this matter might involve him, and Lisha's response the next second confirmed this thought. My purpose is you. Lisha reined in all expressions and stared intently at Shane. It's because I knew you were the new hero that I stayed, even after receiving news that people from the old Demon Clan faction had infiltrated Lamidjan. Upon hearing this, Shane had only one thought. That was, trouble was coming. Sure enough, let's collaborate. Lisha looked straight at Shane and spoke out. Let's cooperate. When those words came from Lisha's mouth, Shane fell silent. Then, Shane silently got up, turned his head, and walked away without looking back. Wait. Who just walks away without hesitation the moment they hear about cooperation? Lisha immediately blinked behind Shane, grabbed him, and began shouting loudly while her expression was filled with a life-questioning astonishment. Let me go. Shane remained adamant and said, Just by hearing it, you can tell it's going to be an extremely troublesome matter. And if I keep listening, it's very likely that I'll end up in a situation where I have no choice but to do it. Therefore, the best option is not to listen at all. Let me go now. With that, Shane tried to shake off Lisha's hand, who knew that Lisha, seemingly aware that she couldn't outmuscle Shane, threw herself onto him and clung on. This time, Shane was completely embraced by Lisha, not only feeling an extremely soft and comfortable sensation at the point of contact, but also a tempting fragrance that went straight into his nose. You? Now, it was Shane's turn to be astonished. What you me? Lisha replied, extremely angry. I won't let you go. You actually walk away while others are still talking? It's the first time I've come across someone like you. No, if it were anyone else, Shane wouldn't have gone this far. After all, he understood basic politeness. However, facing Lisha, who clearly had a myriad of issues, Shane really wanted to keep his distance. If his impoliteness could drive her away, then nothing could be better. Even now, being tightly held by such a fragrant beauty, in a state where many things could be deemed very bad, Shane still hadn't changed his idea of wanting to flee. I just wanted to get some useful information for Vivian and the others, not to jump into your pit willingly. So let go of me, quickly. Shane pressed against Lisha's head and pushed her head away. Lisha stubbornly resisted, a look of defiance on her face. I won't let go, unless you twist my head off. Otherwise, I absolutely won't. Oh, it hurts so much. Stop. It's going to break. Are you really twisting it? This is no longer a matter of being a hero or not, but a matter of being a man or not. You person. The defiant Lisha screamed tragically as Shane's unmerciful grip threatened to twist her head off, leaving Lisha both incredulous and close to tears. Because you look cute and are a woman, you think you'll be treated gently, making men helpless and soft-hearted. I'm tired of seeing such tactics, Shane sneered. If you don't let go now, I'm really going to twist it off, okay? The threat-laden voice caused Lisha's complexion to turn green. At that moment, Lisha hurriedly let go and looked at Shane with a mix of anger and hatred. On the other hand, Shane seemed refreshingly pleased, as if he had awakened some terrible quirk, sending shivers down one's spine. Lisha's chest heaved violently, seemingly wanting to bite off chunks of flesh from Shane's body. After a while, Lisha managed to suppress the frustration in her heart, taking several deep breaths. I'm serious. That was all Lisha could say. I'm serious too, Shane replied without hesitation. Lisha had to admit she really wanted to bite this man to death. However, Lisha still turned the frustrations in her heart into a sigh. I'm not joking with you. Lisha tensed her face and looked at Shane, saying that thing absolutely cannot fall into the hands of the old Demon Clan faction. Otherwise, not to mention Lamidjan, this nation and even the world itself will be in big trouble. Shane's eye twitched. Is it really turning out like this? No matter which story it is, once there's talk of towns, nations, worlds facing a crisis, what follows is sure to be a series of cliched and melodramatic plot developments. The perplexing thing is, when such events actually occur, it's exactly as Shane said. It ultimately becomes a situation you have no choice but to address. And yet, there are people who call such actions sacrificial and criticize them, which would make the former Shane want to ask if anyone truly knows what sacrificial means. Shane definitely did not want to be sacrificial. It should be said that nobody would want to. But if such a situation really arose, Shane admitted that at least sitting by and doing nothing was something he truly couldn't do. Therefore, Shane didn't want to listen anymore and allow the situation to turn into one where he had no choice but to act. Now, Shane let out a sigh. Then let me hear it first, Shane said with half-closed eyes. At least, I'll make a decision after listening to the end. That's more like it. Lisha visibly relaxed and even wiped her brow as she said, I was really worried you'd just walk away. If things aren't right, I'll still leave, Shane warned as a heads up, adding, right now I'm just planning to listen. Your so-called cooperation. We can discuss that after I'm done listening. That's good enough for now, Lisha smiled, saying, Can you sit down now? Shane muttered a few words, sighed again, and then stepped forward, sitting back down in his original spot. It was then that Lasha stepped forward. "Please enjoy your tea." As if everything that had just happened was merely a farce. Having witnessed the interaction between Shane and Lasha remained unmoved, expressionless as she poured steaming hot tea into their cups. Shane felt that this maid might be more formidable than he had imagined. Lasha, however, seemed so accustomed to Lasha's demeanor, nonchalantly lifting her teacup. Then, before long, the old Demon Clan faction will likely come to Lamidjan to rescue Killian. Lasha went straight to the point. "Rescue?" Shane lifted his eyelids. "Yes." Lasha finally seemed to calm down as she said, "No matter how you look at it, Killian is one of the key figures of the old Demon Clan faction, level 77, and the old Demon Clan faction definitely wouldn't sit back and let such a force be disposed of by the human race. So, it was quite normal for someone to come to the rescue. Plus, with my presence here, I estimate that it won't be just some small fry showing up. It might even be the old Demon Clan faction's main force, determined to take the item I have, even if it means conquering this town." That's what Lasha said. If it were the past, I would have simply left, not confronting them head-on. But this time, since you become a variable in this scenario, I want to give them a taste of their own medicine. Specifically speaking, I want to cooperate with you to crush the old Demon Clan faction's main. Lasha's statement, filled with the ferocity, indeed caught Shane by surprise. Although he had only met Lasha a few times, in Shane's view, although she was capricious, she was not the type to casually toy with other people's lives. Even during their encounter in the Mangar mountain range, she bore no hostility toward him at all and only exerted pressure later on to force out his holy sword. But in the end, she left immediately after testing him with one move. She didn't seem too vicious by nature. But now, it seemed that this lady wasn't non-violent. She just picked her targets. "Do you bear such a grudge against the old Demon Clan faction?" Shane tentatively asked this. "What do you think?" Lasha said with a smirk. "After being hunted for so long, if there was no other way, do you think I'd just run away without seeking revenge?" That made sense. If Shane were in her shoes, he would certainly want to realize. That was probably Lasha's train of thought at the moment, having finally seized an opportunity to pay back the old Demon Clan faction. Naturally, she wouldn't want to let it slip away. Furthermore, by weakening the old Demon Clan faction to the right degree, they will lessen their efforts in chasing me, and then I'll have a chance to do much more. Lasha explained earnestly. "That's why I want to cooperate with you." Shane suddenly started calculating various possibilities in his mind. That sounded reasonable, but there were several questions that couldn't be ignored. For instance, what's in it for me if I cooperate with you? Shane was very direct. "There's no real advantage, but at least you can avoid disadvantages." Lasha was equally straightforward. "You don't need me to point out the obvious. If the old Demon Clan faction sends a large force over, with Lamidjan's highest level being only 68, he surely couldn't hold them off. For the sake of this town, you already have a reason to take action, right? How can you have the audacity to say that?" Shane's eyes twitched heavily, and his gaze towards Lasha turned unfriendly. He said, "If it weren't for you staying here, the old Demon Clan faction wouldn't have targeted this town. It was all caused by you, and now you have a nerve to say that, thinking I'm some naive kid you can easily fool. How nice it would be if you really were that easy to fool." Lasha sighed and even retorted irritably, "Do you think there would be no trouble if I didn't stay here? Once the artifact in my possession falls into the hands of the old Demon Clan faction, it's not just this town, but the entire human realm that will be in imminent danger. I'm risking my life here." "Then you can just keep running." Shane stood straight, without a second thought. He earnestly said, "As long as you keep running, as you said, no one can catch you, and then this town will be spared from danger, killing two birds with one stone. Why bother thinking about revenge? Just leave, how about that? No. Do you even count as a person?" Lasha couldn't help but slam the table, ranting, "I've been working so hard for your human race and the human realm, and you talk like this?" "No, even if you say that, it doesn't really work for me," Shane said with an innocent expression. "I'm not from this world. Even if you tell me you're struggling so hard for the people of this world, it's hard for me to really feel it, pal. Lasha suddenly found herself at a loss for words, feeling a tightness in her chest, wanting to shout in frustration. Why was such a person chosen as the hero? What were those of the divine race thinking? No, she couldn't go on thinking about this, or her brain would break. Stay calm, I must stay calm. While Lasha was desperately trying to reassure herself, Shane came with another light statement. Do you think my words make sense? It's not too late to change your mind now, you know. Shane's words almost made Lasha want to cry. At this moment, Lasha, who had been standing by, suddenly spoke up. Mr. Shane should have already seen what kind of people the old Demon Clan faction are, right? Lasha suddenly said such a sentence. You mean that show-off? Shane couldn't help but cast his gaze upon her. Although I don't know what you mean by show-off, is it really okay to leave someone like that unattended? Lasha said with an undisturbed expression. Shane's eyes immediately flickered with light. Recalling the situation when he had encountered Killian, Shane understood what Lasha was referring to. Someone who repelled the human race like that, even rejecting everything related to the human race, treating the things of this world as if they were filthy, leaving such a person unattended was obviously dangerous. Basically, everyone in the old Demon Clan faction is like that, extremely loathing everything outside the Demon Clan, even hating those of their own who had abandoned their pride in pursuit of peace, acting recklessly for an unreasonable ideal. For this era, they're unquestionably a cancer. Lasha narrated calmly. You must also be aware of what Killian did in the royal capital 10 years ago. People from the old Demon Clan faction are all dangerous characters like that. If left unchecked, this kingdom and even the world will eventually be destroyed by them. At that time, can you guarantee that this town won't become one of their future targets? These words made Shane furrow his brows involuntarily. It had to be said, the maid's words carried some weight to Shane. It wasn't that Shane was a compassionate person, believing he should eradicate these social tumors, but he was very clear that if things progressed in that direction, he would probably still end up being sucked into the midst of it. Do you know why the heroes of generations tirelessly strive to defeat the Demon King? Lasha now looked back at Shane and said, it's not because they want to be heroes, nor because they are driven by the divine race. It's simply because, living in this world, once conflicts explode among the three clans, they have no choice but to resist based on their own position. Shane somewhat understood the implied meaning of Lasha's words. I don't know what calculations people of the divine race have now for summoning the hero, but since the divine race has already secretly summoned the hero, it proves that something big is going to happen. Perhaps your meeting with me was not coincidental, but a kind of destiny. Both of them had been summoned to this world by the divine race in a state of confusion. One was being hunted by the people of the old Demon Clan faction. In a way, it was indeed quite fateful. Besides, this matter doesn't really have any downside for you, does it? Lasha expressed that. Have you really not considered it? Listening to these words, Shane once again fell into deep thought. Lasha did not rush Shane, waiting quietly together with Lasha, who was still utterly serene, for Shane to reach a conclusion. Shane frowned deeply, pondering for quite a while, before finally lifting his eyelids. What exactly did you steal to make the people from the old Demon Clan faction chase you like this? Shane went straight to the heart of the matter. You can actually go back and ask your team captain about this. Lasha was silent for a while, then spoke softly. Ask Vivian? Shane was stunned. Yes. Lasha curled her lip, saying, she knows my identity as well as what I've done in the past. You'll know if you ask her. Shane was immediately at a loss for words. Reminded by Lasha, Shane suddenly remembered. Previously, when Vivian claimed she was looking for Lasha, this is what she had said. Being targeted by members of the old Demon Clan faction in Lemidgen is quite an unstable factor. So we must find her to determine her purpose in Lemidgen and even to understand the whole situation, which is the mission our president personally issued to us. Indeed, Vivian wanted to clarify Lasha's purposes, to understand the whole situation, not to determine Lasha's identity and background. Moreover, when they subdued Killian previously, The expression on the knight captain's face when he saw Elisha's portrait was also very unpleasant. This proved that Elisha's identity was no secret in their eyes. Perhaps Elisha's identity was more transparent than Shane had imagined. However, ever since she started talking about things like stealing from the Demon King's official residence and stealing dangerous items, could her real identity be that of a heroic robber or righteous thief? Should he simply capture her and take her back? Shane's gaze toward Elisha gradually became odd. Elisha keenly sensed something, shuddered, and her expression filled with vigilance as she watched Shane. Although unaware of what this absurd hero was thinking, Elisha knew it definitely wasn't something good. In that instant, driven by instinct for self-protection, Elisha quickly changed the topic. Anyway, I am not an enemy to you guys even if we aren't in the same faction. Cooperating with me won't do you any harm. Think about it properly. With this said, Elisha's demeanor had already become quite humble. This left Elisha feeling mentally drained, and thoughts of questioning life became ever stronger. Shane crossed his arms, beginning to seriously contemplate the matter. Destroy the main forces of the old Demon Clan faction? That wasn't something completely out of the question. After all, having met Killian, Shane's fondness for this so-called old Demon Clan faction had already dropped to the lowest point. Even if he completely wiped them out, he wouldn't have any psychological burdens. Moreover, if members of the old Demon Clan faction really came to rescue Killian, Shane didn't know what Lemidgen would become, but he knew those guys would definitely look for trouble with him. After all, following the usual plot twists, by this time, the braggart whose name sounded like some minor villain from a blue-collar manga must already be hating him to the point of fury, feeling humiliated by him and in a state eager to kill him. If rescued later, taking revenge just like a typical villain would, it was pretty much predictable. And surely, they would take a high-profile approach to revenge, like taking the townspeople hostage, forcing him into a desperate situation, or sacrificing the entire town to accompany him in death, making him die in agony, which was typical villain behavior. By then, he would be forced to pull out the holy sword, instantly killing all those villains, but in doing so reveal his identity, entering the radar of major powers, gaining attention or worship, establishing his hero mode. Wasn't that another cliché? If Shane wanted to be a hero, going by this textbook template was the way, just follow the steps. Unfortunately, Shane was not that kind of person. Since that's the case, why not take advantage of the situation now and stealthily eliminate those so-called members of the old Demon Clan faction without any risk and blame it all on the great heroic robber? Shane had a moment of clarity, but before that, Shane had something he wanted to confirm. With just the two of us, can we destroy the main force of the old Demon Clan faction? What Shane meant was clear. He did not want to end up facing some big shot and getting killed in return. Are you still worried about that? Elisha chuckled. You were unscathed in front of me, even when your level was so low. If we add the power of the Holy Sword, is there anyone besides the 3 great goddesses and the 6 great demons who could be your match? That's not necessarily the case. Shane was not arrogant, but very cautious. How do I know what the level of the person coming will be? How strong will their abilities be? Not to mention, it's easy to dodge the obvious, but hard to guard against the hidden. If hiding won't work, how do I know they won't play dirty? At least, Shane did not believe reality could be like in novels, where being powerful enough to instantly annihilate everything would allow one to ignore everything. You see, in the current era, there are warrior races capable of blowing up planets that could almost be killed by a laser gun. Men hanging upside down in life support units could fall to the gun of a spy speaking in a strange Kansai accent. Shane felt it was better to be cautious to avoid any mishaps. You really are strange, Elisha said with a wry smile. Indeed, the old Demon Clan faction has many inhumane tactics at their disposal, and I can't guarantee total safety, but this time we are attacking them, not they making moves from the shadows. As long as we are cautious, couldn't we, with our abilities, at least escape with our lives intact? Shane had a very high-level resistance skill and was also protected by the Holy Sword. Even if he couldn't win, he wouldn't be harmed, a fact already proved in front of Elisha. Lisha herself was a user of space magic. If she simply wanted to escape, almost no one could stop her. With such capabilities as a guarantee, Lisha dared invite Shane to attack the main force of the old Demon Clan faction. Unless someone with a really strange, unique skill appears, but the chances are low, we should be quite safe. Lisha seemed very confident, but Shane always felt like this was a setup. However, unique skill, huh? Shane pondered thoughtfully. That's right, Lisha nodded. Unique skills are very special abilities. They might be totally useless, or they could have earth-shattering effects, overturning any disadvantageous situation. So those who awaken a unique skill are usually taken seriously. Isn't it because of your unique skill that you became so extraordinary despite your low level? Therefore, whether one has a unique skill and what effects this unique skill has will directly determine a person's role and power. Generally speaking, if there's no unique skill, that's one thing. But if there is, you first have to assess the strength of the unique skill and then look at the level and other skills. That's the standard for judging a person's strength. Lisha explained it this way. For example, the 6 great demons of the demon realm, the commanders under their command in terms of level and skill actually aren't much different from them. But as subordinates of the demon king, all the 6 great demons possess extremely terrifying unique skills, which easily crush those commanders whose level and skills are not far from their own. It is also for this reason that heroes from generations are imbued with great expectations, as they usually possess powerful, unique skills, and possibly even the holy sword that is on par with unique skills. When combined, even the 3 great goddesses and the 6 great demons dare not underestimate them. You were summoned to this world not long ago, but as a hero, you should be able to grow quickly, and when you encounter enemies in the future, you absolutely must not overlook the impact of the unique skill, okay? Listening to Lisha's words, Shane pondered deeply. 10 minutes later, under Lisha's lead, Shane emerged from Lisha's Huaming Pavilion. Then, Mr. Shane, please accept this. Outside Huaming Pavilion, Lisha handed something to Shane. What is this? Shane took the item, his expression full of confusion. It was just a seemingly ordinary piece of parchment rolled up and tied with a thin string, fashioned into a scroll and lying in Shane's hand, looking no different from the adventurer's license he had received at the Adventurers Guild. But of course, it wasn't just any parchment. This is something akin to a magic tool, Lisha said calmly. While the tool itself is made of very ordinary material, indistinguishable from common parchment, Lady Lisha has used her own space magic to link it to another piece of parchment. Whatever Lady Lisha writes on that parchment will appear exactly as it is on the piece you're holding. Oh, Shane seemed to understand and said, so, this is essentially a means of communication? Yes, Lisha nodded and said, Lady Lisha has already set up a magic barrier for reconnaissance around Lamidjan. As soon as someone from the old Demon Clan faction appears, she will be able to detect it immediately. At that time, I hope, Mr. Shane, after receiving Lady Lisha's message, you will meet up with her. That was the gist of it. In the end, Shane had accepted Lisha's invitation and decided to join her in dismantling the old Demon Clan faction's main force. It was for his own sake as well. I hope those from the old Demon Clan faction show up soon. Shane wished earnestly for this. Indeed, Lisha said with an expressionless face, if they do not appear soon, Lady Lisha might start having a headache. After all, Killian was not only part of the old Demon Clan faction, but also the main culprit behind a massive assassination attempt in the royal capital, leading to the death of many nobles and even members of the royal family. Such a ferocious criminal would not be ignored by the kingdom. Surely, before long, the kingdom would send someone over to escort Killian back to the royal capital for trial. Because of this, to keep an eye on Killian, Lamidjan had gone through great trouble, making Riley run around because of it. If things went smoothly and someone from the royal capital came, Killian would be taken back to the royal capital, and it would become very difficult for the old Demon Clan faction to rescue him from the hands of the capital's people. Considering this, once people from the capital arrived, the members of the old Demon Clan faction would probably give up on rescue altogether. As a result, The plans Shane and Lisha had would be directly thwarted. This wasn't necessarily a bad thing for Shane. In fact, it might have been the outcome he wanted to see. But he didn't know if the old Demon Clan faction would come after him in revenge for Killian. So, just to be safe, Shane still hoped to personally dismantle them and not have to remain on guard against a group of dangerous terrorists later on. Naturally, Lisha felt the same way, hoping to take this opportunity to make the old Demon Clan faction take a big fall and not be able to recover from it. Therefore, both Shane and Lisha hoped the old Demon Clan faction would appear soon. They must also be well aware that once that posturer is handed over to the people of the royal capital, the difficulty of a rescue will increase several levels, Shane said thoughtfully. The question is whether they can make it in time. Logically, there shouldn't be any problems, Lasha replied, ever composed. It's unlikely that Killian has come to Lemidgen alone to seek out Lady Lisha. That would be inefficient. He must have brought a group with him, and that group has probably already gone back to report. The old Demon Clan faction will quickly receive the news and act immediately. Let's hope so, Shane said, sounding not very hopeful. Then he looked at Lasha, eyeing her discreetly, and said, "By the way, Lady Lasha, aren't you coming with us?" "Just call me Lasha, sir," Lasha said, her tone not particularly reverent or polite, as she maintained a calm and forthcoming attitude. "I am merely Lady Lisha's maid. I am very confident in handling everyday matters, but sadly, I am not at all skilled in combat and am only level 10, so please don't hold any expectations for me." "Is that so?" Shane expressed deep skepticism, even unconsciously muttering. "Isn't it generally the case that a maid should be stronger than her mistress to be considered qualified? If that were the standard, then there probably wouldn't be many maids in this world who could meet the criteria." Lasha seemed momentarily stunned by Shane's words before looking at him again and saying, "It has always been Lady Lisha who has been protecting me, providing me a place to live so I can continue to survive. It's just unfortunate that I really can't be of any help in combat. Lady Lisha's safety, I must rely on Mr. Shane to take care." Saying this, Lasha bowed slightly to Shane, performing an impeccable curtsy before turning and leaving with decisive steps. Shane watched Lasha depart, muttering after a while, "Even if you say that, isn't it hardly my concern? With Lisha's control over space magic, her safety surely didn't need much consideration. Well, if that guy does find himself in danger, I'll come play the hero and save the beauty." Shane mused out loud with all the malice he could muster, as if he had sworn to break every cliché and see it through. Achoo! In the reception room of Huaming Pavilion, Lasha suddenly sneezed cutely and shivered all over. "What's going on? Why do I feel this inexplicable determination bubbling up inside me, as if my safety has to come first no matter what?" Lasha hugged herself to fight off the chill and tilted her head in confusion, not understanding what was happening. Meanwhile, Shane, oblivious to all this, left Huaming Pavilion in high spirits. Buzz! At the same time, the space around Huaming Pavilion trembled suddenly. The scenery warped, and the birdsong and fragrant garden were replaced by the decrepit roads of a deserted area. Shane, with his back to all, headed in the direction of the Adventurers Guild. When Shane returned to the Adventurers Guild, he found Vivian and the others waiting for him in the lobby on the first floor. "Shane!" Vivian immediately stood up upon seeing Shane walk in from outside. "You're back." Phew! Lumuya and Marika both heaved a sigh of relief. TL reflexively stood up with Vivian, but then sat back down as if nothing had happened. Inside the Adventurers Guild, all the adventurers, prompted by the reactions of Vivian and her companions, turned their attention towards Shane. Shane walked straight up without paying attention to the crowd. "Are you all okay?" Shane looked everyone over and finally relaxed when he saw there were no problems with them. "Shouldn't we be the ones asking you that?" Vivian gave a wry smile and reached out to grab Shane's hand. "Come on, let's find a quieter place to talk." Saying this, Vivian led Shane upstairs, with TL, Lumuya, and Marika hurriedly following behind. The surrounding adventurers watched the scene with wide eyes. "Hey, Miss Vivian actually. That newbie." The crowd started to buzz with chatter. Unfortunately, Shane was oblivious to all that was happening here and had no idea that this would lead to a fair amount of trouble for him down the line. In the private room on the second floor of the guild, once again gathered here, Shane found himself completely surrounded by the members of Vivian's team. "Did you meet the owner of the Huaming Pavilion?" Vivian asked somewhat impatiently, as if she had been waiting for Shane's news for a long time. There was no helping it. On the platform, Feng Zhengxiong, Xiao Qingqing, and the other members of the Feng family were panic-stricken. Feng Wuchen's injuries were extremely serious, with one stab piercing through his chi si. The platform's ground turned a swath of red. "Elder, how's Chun Air's injury?" Xiao Qingqing asked anxiously. "Take Wuchen back for treatment immediately." The Feng family's elder, Feng Qinyang, said gravely. "Outrageous!" Hearing Feng Qinyang's words, Feng Zhengxiong flew into a rage, the ferocious killing intent erupting unchecked. "Mo Qianshan, if Chun Air doesn't survive today, I will absolutely not spare your Mo family. This matter has nothing to do with me. If the Feng family head really wants to attack my Mo family, I am ready to welcome you at any time." The Mo family head replied indifferently, leaving without turning his head. Even though Feng Zhengxiong had already broken through to the 9th level of the transformative realm, the Mo family head was not the least bit afraid. "Family head Feng, I forgot to tell you that Linger's current identity is a student at Tianyan Academy. Not to mention that it was Wuchen himself who thrust the sword. Even if Linger killed him, your Feng family can't do anything about it. With Tianyan Academy and my Huangfu family support, you should weigh your own strength before trying to deal with the Mo family." The young man on the platform sneered proudly. After a scornful laugh, the young man added, "Do you know what a 6th grade martial soul signifies? I have never heard of Unmatched City producing a genius with a 6th grade martial soul before, let alone a woman. Even at Tianyan Academy, Linger stands out among the best." Leaving those words behind, the young man also departed. Tianyan Academy. Feng Zhengxiong's face underwent a severe change, but he had no time to think further, quickly leaving with the severely injured Feng Wuchen. By comparison, Feng Wuchen's life was more important. Mo Linger has been recruited by Tianyan Academy? When did this happen? As expected of Unmatched City's top genius, Mo Linger was recruited by Tianyan Academy. A 6th grade martial soul, such a powerful talent. Tianyan Academy would be crazy not to recruit her. Mo Linger's future accomplishments will be boundless. Having such an astonishing talent, if I were in her place, I would do the same. Such a powerful gift indeed offers better choices. Wuchen cannot blame Mo Ling. The entire venue was shocked by such genius, truly making the people of Unmatched City envious. Mo Linger's entry into Tianyan Academy meant her status had risen even higher, so Wuchen had even less standing to reach for her. In the Feng family hall, there was silence, and worry and urgency were written on the faces of the higher-ups. Less than a quarter hour had passed when Feng Qianyang appeared in the hall, his elderly face showing traces of sorrow and helplessness. "Elder, how is Chun Air?" Xiao Qingqing asked anxiously. Everyone's eyes turned toward Feng Qianyang. Feng Qianyang shook his head helplessly, saying, "Wuchen's injury is too severe. His dantian is damaged, and he has dropped to the 2nd layer of the body refining realm. With my strength as a 1st grade alchemist, I can't save Wuchen." "Elder, do you mean to say Chun Air won't make it?" Feng Zhengxiong asked in panic, his gaze locked onto Feng Qianyang. "Elder, please think of a way. You must save Chun Air." Xiao Qingqing collapsed upon hearing this, tears streaming down like rain. Feng Qianyang shook his head again, with a sigh. "Unless it's a remedy concocted by a 3rd grade alchemist. But where can we find a 3rd grade alchemist in Unmatched City?" Upon hearing this, Feng Zhengxiong sat down in despair. Feng Qianyang's words had effectively pronounced a death sentence for Feng Wuchen. Mo Ling, Feng Yuan, the eldest son, gnashed his teeth, his fists clenched with rage. "I will never forgive you. If my younger brother doesn't survive, I'll make sure you join him in death." "Elder, Is there truly no other way? Xiao Qingqing asked through tearful sobs, unwilling to give up even the faintest glimmer of hope. I truly have no means to help. Wuchen has not much time left. You can go and see him for the last time. Feng Qianyang shook his head once more. Sorrow and anger spread through the hall. At that moment, Feng Wuchen was still unconscious, his life force extremely fragile, hanging by a thread. However, not long after, something miraculous happened. The wound at Wuchen's dantian, inflicted by the sword, began to heal at a visible rate. The next second, Feng Wuchen suddenly opened his eyes wide, gasping for air as if he'd been holding his breath underwater for hours, looking as though he had a nightmare, his head covered in cold sweat, his face pale with fright. What? What was that black thing? Feng Wuchen wiped off his sweat, speaking with fright, but before he could think further, his expression suddenly changed. My injury, what happened? Ah! As Feng Wuchen was startled and astonished, his head suddenly felt as if it had been stabbed by a sword, the pain immense, his face instantly contorting. Then a massive influx of information poured into his mind. This is accepting the massive influx of information without resistance. Feng Wuchen was so shocked that his eyes nearly popped out. He nearly forgot the severe throbbing pain in his head. This is the memory of the evil dragon god. He is from the ancient dragon god clan. It's said the dragon clan is an all-powerful supreme with no equal. How could the evil dragon god be hiding within me, looking to use my body to reincarnate? Could this all be a dream? Feng Wuchen cried out in disbelief, feeling that everything was utterly implausible. The ancient dragon god clan, Feng Wuchen had never heard of such a thing. It was only when these massive snippets of information suddenly emerged in his mind that he felt as if he were still in a dream. In the memory of the evil dragon god, Feng Wuchen came to know that the evil dragon god was from the ancient dragon god clan, which had two holy sons, Long Tianhun and Long Tianzhan. The two were the most dazzling geniuses of the dragon god clan, but they tore their faces apart in their fight for the supreme throne of the dragon clan. They had been openly and secretly struggling against each other for years. In the end, on the day of the election for the supreme throne, Long Tianhun was not chosen due to having improper motives, and his brother Long Tianzhan successfully became the next supreme of the dragon clan. In terms of talent and strength, Long Tianhun was not inferior to Long Tianzhan. In a world where strength was esteemed, he believed he could make the Dragon God clan even more powerful, and that the supreme throne of the Dragon clan should rightfully belong to him. But alas, it did not. Long Tianhun felt it was his father playing favorites. He could not accept the supreme throne falling into Long Tianzhan's hands. His hatred grew deeper over time, and eventually, Long Tianhun led many strong members of the Dragon clan away, severing ties with the Dragon God clan completely. As a result, Long Tianhun also changed his name to the Evil Dragon God to forcibly seize the supreme throne of the Dragon clan. Long Tianhun brazenly recruited soldiers and horses. A great war broke out within the Dragon God clan. With overwhelming power, Long Tianhun defeated Long Tianzhan, seized the Dragon God seal, and thought he had secured the supreme throne, only to be sealed by divine skills used by the 6 elders of the Dragon God clan in the end. This can't be real, right? The evil Dragon God is too terrifying. No, those 6 elders are even more terrifying. As he flipped through the memories of the evil Dragon God, Feng Wuchen trembled in horror, sweating profusely and gasping for air. Third young master, you're awake. Just as Feng Wuchen was shivering in fright, the room door was suddenly opened, and a beautiful maid rushed in. The maid had been alarmed by the screams coming from the room earlier. When she rushed in and saw Feng Wuchen awake, she was completely dumbfounded. It's also for this reason that when they discovered her this time, the higher-ups didn't dare to rashly send people to arrest her. They could only send people to secretly look for her, to contact her, to understand her purpose for appearing in Lamijin, whether she posed any danger, and then make plans. And Vivian received this mission, going with others to Huoming Pavilion. Perhaps, after being transferred back, the reason Vivian hesitated to directly seek her out again was because of this matter. That guy. Shane felt an urge to strip away the other person's facade. What do you mean the other side is the evil faction? Aren't you also from the evil faction? Afterward, Shane shared with Vivian and the others the conversation he had with Lisha at the Huoming Pavilion. Of course, Shane only revealed part of it. He didn't disclose the fact that he would be collaborating with Lisha to destroy the main forces of the old Demon Clan faction. If he had laid all that out, Vivian and the others would surely not have agreed to it, right? Even so, it's still a collaboration with a wanted criminal, he thought. Just contemplating it gave Shane an uneasy feeling. Shane even wondered if this could also be part of Lisha's scheme. Otherwise, if Lisha had disclosed her identity from the beginning, Shane would have definitely considered it further before agreeing to such a thing. However, Shane made Lisha's personal intentions very clear. That person seems to be avoiding the old Demon Clan faction's pursuit in order not to let the artifact be misused, so her appearance in Lemidgen probably doesn't have any other purpose. Shane conveyed this matter to Vivian and the others for the time being. Still, if possible, Shane really wanted to complain. If you don't want the artifact to be misused, then why steal it from the royal city in the first place? It was utterly pointless. Naturally, that's what he thought, but Shane was well aware that there had to be a deeper story behind it all, or else it wouldn't have led to this outcome. And Shane might be somewhat involved in this deeper story, and if he continued to engage with it, he might uncover something. Unfortunately, Shane had no intention of doing so. As the saying goes, the more you know, the more dangerous it gets. Those kinds of secrets that can mess up your whole life are better left to hell. For the reasons above, Shane had no interest in delving into the intrigue. At least, not right now. Keep in mind, Shane had only been in this world for about half a month, and even with cheats, he hadn't fully developed yet. Not only was he just at level 18, but with his unique skill, he could acquire many more powerful abilities, making himself much stronger than he was now. Imagine, if he didn't have this advantage and got involved in this situation at just level 18, it would be easy to foresee how dire his circumstances would be. So, Shane thought it better to avoid such matters as much as possible while he could still grow rapidly. When he could no longer avoid them, having the absolute power to face them would be truly reassuring. To put it more plainly, compared to laboriously fighting through chaotic scenes, Shane preferred to stealthily cultivate his strength and then sweep through everything in one fell swoop, which could be seen from his previous plan to defeat the Demon King without taking any risks. After all, that kind of torturous otherworld obstacle course model is something I'd rather decline. Therefore, Shane wasn't overly concerned about what exactly Lisha had taken from the royal city or what the old Demon Clan faction wanted to get their hands on. As long as he didn't let the former off easy and prevented the latter from succeeding, that was good enough in terms of results. Why worry about anything else? Under these circumstances, Shane said what needed to be said, leaving the rest for Vivian and the others to judge. And so, I'll have a good talk with Riley about this matter, Vivian said thoughtfully to everyone. Let's cancel our team's adventuring activities for now. We don't know what might happen next, so let's stay on standby in Lemidgen. This was considered a stopgap measure. I have no objections, TL said indifferently. I'll also stay in town recently, making it convenient to assemble and act at any time. I have no objections either, Lu Muya expressed with some concern. Given the current situation, I'm not comfortable leaving my family alone in town. Of course, I have no objections either, Marika quickly said. If something happens, remember to tell us first thing, Sister Vivian. I will, Vivian said with a smile, nodding, and then turned to look at Shane, thought for a moment, and said, Unfortunately, I probably won't be taking on any commissions for a while, but the assessments will continue. An adventurer's job isn't just about combat ability. It seems you still don't quite understand many aspects of knowledge, so I suggest you take this time to enrich your understanding of various fields. Shane naturally accepted this suggestion with pleasure. After all, Shane really didn't understand much about the knowledge of this world. If there was an opportunity to supplement this knowledge, to better understand the affairs of this world, then Shane would absolutely welcome it. Not to mention, had Shane known about Lisha being wanted by the kingdom like everyone else, there might not have been so much trouble. In that case, Shane would surely have reported that scoundrel to the Adventurers Guild or the Night Order the first time he saw her, to see if she would still dare to walk around so freely and carelessly. With these thoughts, Shane received a very useful piece of information from Vivian. There's a large library on the third floor of the guild, which houses many useful books for adventurers to use. You should take a look when you're free. This news made Shane's eyes light up. Why did Shane choose to become an adventurer in the first place? Apart from needing to resolve the issue of his status, wasn't it to gather various pieces of information through the channel of the Adventurers Guild? Now, that purpose had come into play. I always say, reality is different from novels. Adventurers need to solve various commissions and possess knowledge in many areas, such as how to dissect demon materials or how to identify various magic items, and so on. There's bound to be a channel that allows adventurers to understand and learn. Originally, Shane had thought the guild relied on the old bringing up the new, having seniors teach the juniors this knowledge, but now it seemed the guild provided this assistance in a more convenient form. Perhaps this was also something Riley, someone who liked to be well-prepared, had specifically arranged? Regardless, this was extremely useful for Shane. There's no time like the present. I'll make use of it without hesitation. Having made up his mind, Shane immediately went to the third floor of the guild after Vivian's team had dispersed. Third floor of the guild, library. This was an exceedingly vast space. The bookshelves were neatly arranged like a long dragon, stretching into the depths beyond sight. Books, both new and old, lay quietly on the many shelves, emitting a unique musty fragrance of paper and ink. It really is huge, Shane remarked upon arriving, a touch of amazement in his voice as he looked at the expanse of the place, more akin to a city of books than a library. Inside, many adventurers seemed to be making use of the facility as well, standing before crystal-like magic tools, confirming something, and then spreading out toward the bookshelves. Filled with curiosity, Shane stepped forward to one of the magic tools and discovered it was a directory displaying the types of books and which direction they were located in, along with the precise location on the shelves. "It's quite sophisticated," Shane said with a smile, and then began to check the directory. Just as Shane had thought before, the majority of the books in the Adventurers Guild's library were related to fulfilling quests. Titles such as Magic Tool Classification and Construction Principle, Monster Catalog, Material Recognition and Types, Wilderness Adventure Precautions, Human Realm Dangerous Land Summary, Location of the Magic Source, and others whose contents could be understood at a glance from their titles, appeared one after another in the catalog. While confirming these titles, Shane intended to find the parts he was interested in. Among them, one book was immediately chosen by Shane. Omnipotensen. Upon seeing this title, Shane immediately decided to read it first. Because this book detailed the origin and history of the world known as Omnipotensen. Following the catalog's instructions, Shane arrived at the targeted bookshelf and easily found the book. This is really convenient. While admiring the convenience of the library, Shane also began to flip through the book called Omnipotensen. It wasn't until this moment that Shane learned for the first time about the true colors of this world. No, it should be said that at Nian's place, Shane had already once learned about the true colors of this world. According to that goddess, at the very beginning, the world only consisted of the divine race and the demon clan. The divine race wielded authority over various domains, thus possessing a multitude of different abilities. The demon clan was born with extremely strong power, unparalleled in the realms of battle and destruction. Because the people of the divine race excelled in their respective domains, they could be considered the most magnificent beings there, but due to the differences in their domains, they each excelled in different things. As a result, within the divine race, there were individuals who were either not skilled in battle or who had no combat ability at all. The people of the demon clan, on the other hand, were generally very strong in terms of power, without any number restrictions, and, as a race, they were far superior in strength to the divine race. yet they were unable to perform the nearly miraculous abilities that the divine race could. The two clans have been in conflict since the distant past, leading to a series of subsequent disputes. This part was almost identical to what Nian had previously explained. However, Shane discovered that before this, both the divine race and the demon clan had their own origins. The book described it as follows. In the beginning, when the world was born, there were only two beings in omnipotency. One named Omenes, one named Cladis. Omenes was an almighty being, the origin and beginning of the world. Cladis symbolized power, the clone of destruction and devastation. The divine race received power and authority from Omenes, taking various roles shaped in the image of the almighty Omenes, and as one of the earliest races, created humans, elves, dwarves, and beastmen, among others. The divine race, being the creators of the human race, has since been guiding the lives in the human realm. The demon clan came into existence under the influence of Cladis's magic power, similar in nature to demons that emerged due to the influence of the magic power source, a race naturally born through interference of magic power, naturally possessing great strength and revering power, engendering fear and terror. It was from these two beings that the divine race and demon clan came into being, leading to the emergence of various other races. Therefore, it is completely fitting to say that the origin of everything began with these two lives. Still, the divine race and demon clan have been antagonistic towards each other from the moment of their creation. The reasons for this are probably unclear even to the divine race and demon clan themselves. Perhaps it was due to some irreconcilable conflict, or maybe one side could not stand the other and wanted to claim sole ownership over the world. The true reason has long been buried in history, with no one knowing. This reveals just how long the conflict between the divine race and the demon clan has been. With such a long history of strife, it's no wonder that there are those within the demon clan who don't wish for peace to arise. Shane mused quietly to himself as he read this. However, Omenes, Cladis, undoubtedly, the owners of these two names, their identities were about to come to light. Omenes is the supreme goddess, the pinnacle of the divine race, known as the supreme god. Cladis is the demon king who brings chaos, the apex of the demon clan, whose power is such that even the supreme god must temporarily yield before it, making him the strongest being in this world. Thus, the divine race could only seek to summon a being capable of defeating the demon king across worlds, a hero. Yet even so, successive heroes had all fallen before the demon king, with none able to successfully vanquish him. Until 1,000 years ago, the strongest hero of all time, Mitra. This hero possessed unparalleled strength, surpassing all other heroes before him, and finally managed to defeat the demon king with the aid of the supreme god Omenes and the support of all the races, saving the world. The content that follows is the same as what Vivian told me. After the demon king was defeated, the supreme god Omenes had also expended too much of her power, dividing the world into 3 parts and then leading the divine race into the divine world, deep within, never to be seen again. And thus the 3 clans welcomed a peace that lasted 1,000 years. Supreme God, Shane pondered, his gaze settling on his own special skill, Supreme God's blessing. To this day, he still had no idea what the purpose of this skill was. Come to think of it, I still haven't figured out what a blessing actually is. Shane began to flip through books, even searching for others, until he found a relevant book 5 minutes later, Divine's Blessing. The so-called blessing is, in fact, a kind of protection granted by gods to the lives of the human realm. Shane opened the book and saw this line at first glance. Depending on the purview of the granting god, the effects of the blessing vary. For instance, receiving the blessing of the god of health could lead to healthy growth, essentially free from sickness and pain, and possibly even a long life. Similarly, if one receives the blessing of the god of harvest, they would have bonuses in agriculture. Generally, the blessings given to the common people are of the types mentioned above, with only those possessing other talents being favored with different kinds of God's blessings, displaying abilities in various areas that align with the effects of the blessings. Individuals with the talent for trade may receive the blessing of the god of commerce, benefiting from effects related to safety, business operation, and management. Those with artistic talents may receive the blessing of the god of art, similarly gaining corresponding effect skills. And those with combat talents, such as adventurers, usually possess blessings that boost various immunities and resistances, offering life continuation effects in life-threatening situations. The blessings of the gods are as diverse as there are patron gods for all domains. Of course, the stronger the power of the god bestowing the blessing, the more potent the effect of the blessing. Such is the nature of blessings. Shane was at a loss for words as he read the contents of the book. If that was the case, then he almost didn't need to wonder anymore about who bestowed the supreme God's blessing upon him or why. No, ever since he had first heard of the existence of the supreme God, Shane had some understanding of who the being that blessed him, or rather, who Nian, the one who gave him that blessing, might be. Now, the content in the book told Shane the true identity of his blessing and of Nian, the one who had granted it to him. Each and every one of them hides quite deeply, Shane felt vaguely dissatisfied, because the more he understood about this, the clearer it became that he had been drawn into a deep vortex of facts. According to this book, basically, all life in the human realm receive God's blessing. Any member of the human race is brought by their parents to the temple for the bestowal of blessings upon turning 1 month old. If an individual with astonishing potential is born, they might even attract an upper-level god to grant the blessing. Under such circumstances, it was said that if a being of the 3 great goddesses level were to bestow a blessing, then that blessing could transform a person, accelerating their growth, or even endowing them with talents and qualities they didn't originally possess, allowing one to learn skills and magic they were previously incapable of learning. The effect was quite astounding. Throughout history, the number of lives that had received such a level of divine blessing could be counted on one's fingers. The blessings that heroes summoned to this world receive come from any one of the 3 great goddesses. As for the supreme god, it seemed that they had never bestowed a blessing upon any individual. But now, no matter how one looked at it, Shane appeared to have come into possession of that legendary grade thing. While the other heroes only received blessings from one of the 3 great goddesses, he had directly received the supreme God's blessing. Was it because he was more special than those heroes? Shane always felt that the reason couldn't be just that. Hero summoning occurring after 1,000 years, in a time where the war had ended and peace was made among the 3 clans, was itself an extraordinary event. Furthermore, having received a blessing that no one else had ever received, Shane couldn't believe that there wouldn't be a deeper reason behind it. After all, I can't even figure out what the effect of this blessing is. Since no one had ever received this blessing before, there naturally wasn't anybody who knew what the specific effects of the blessing were. Receives the protection of the world. Limited to the divine race, all conditions fulfillable. Limited to the divine race, all interference avoidable. Limited to the divine race, all jurisdictions effective. Limited to the divine race, all effects enhanced. What on earth do these effects mean? Shane simply couldn't understand. However, one thing is for certain. That is, the divine race's blessing is indispensable to the life in the human realm. This isn't to say that people cannot live without the God's blessing. According to the books, a blessing is proof of being under the protection and guardianship of a god, and anyone can have one, unless they commit an unforgivable crime, at which point the person's blessing would be invalidated. Therefore, those who lose their blessing are despised and ostracized in both the human realm and the divine world, might even be banished by the state, and even the Adventurers Guild does not permit the joining of those who have lost their blessing. That's why they added the function to the magic tester to detect the presence of a blessing, in order to determine whether the newcomers applying to join the Adventurers Guild are heinous criminals. Additionally, naturally, members of the Demon Clan will not receive a blessing. In light of this, Possessing a blessing is a fundamental condition for surviving within the human race's circles. Once lost, one can only end up as a fugitive like Lisha. By the way, both the divine race and the demon clan place great importance on hierarchy, with status varying widely based on rank. Without a doubt, the pinnacle of the divine race is the supreme god, an object of worship and unquestionable loyalty for all in the divine race, even to the point of blind loyalty, as the divine race's life all originates from the supreme god. Members of the divine race must regard it as a mother and an absolute ruler. Following this are the firstborn three great goddesses, with the rest of the divine race being divided into upper-level gods and lower-grade gods. Their status and rank are very distinct. Unquestionably, the pinnacle of the demon clan is the demon king, and after the demon king's death, the 6 great demons are held in the highest esteem, followed by the upper-level demon clan and the lower demon race. The hierarchy is very similar to that of the divine race, with the difference being that for the divine race the determination of rank and status is based on the importance and number of domains they oversee, whereas with the demon clan, it is purely based on the level of their power. If a particularly powerful and promising individual were to emerge, they may even be directly recruited by one of the 6 great demons to join their personal staff, elevating their status above even those of the upper-level demon clan. For instance, Killian is from the upper-level demon clan and used to be under the command of the dragon demon, one of the 6 great demons. His superior was one of the dragon demon's personal staff. Had Killian continued to develop unobtrusively, he might have become one of the dragon demon's personal officers after 100 years, and then, excluding the 6 great demons, Killian's rank in the demon clan would have been amongst the highest. Unfortunately, Killian joined the old demon clan faction and now has left the dragon demon's command, becoming a major criminal and wanted fugitive. Regarding the divine race, as earlier mentioned, rank and status aren't determined by power, but by the importance and number of domains overseen, so there are upper-level gods with no combat abilities and lower-grade gods with extraordinary combat skills. Only the 3 great goddesses have powers incomparable by any others, existing on the same level as the 6 great demons. So you're saying, in the modern world where the demon king has perished and the supreme god has also secluded himself, the 3 great goddesses and the 6 great demons are the visible pinnacle individuals in terms of both status and power? Shane somewhat understood. Looking at it this way, the divine and demon worlds aren't complicated. They have clear hierarchies and simple structures, whereas the human race is much more intricate. The human race is divided into several races, such as humans, dwarves, beastmen, and elves, with each race having different standards of rank and status and uneven distributions of power. Compared to the divine and demon clans, it is undoubtedly much more complex. The Mitra Kingdom, where Shane currently resided, was just one among many countries of the human realm. I wonder what the highest level of combat power is within the human race. Or, to put another way, who would be the strongest among humans? With this thought in mind, Shane returned the book, Divine's Blessing, back to the bookshelf. Of course, there was much he still did not understand, and Shane would have to learn little by little. For now, Shane wanted to look for other books. I wonder if they have it here. This, in fact, was what Shane was most looking forward to. With that expectation, Shane began to roam around the library. About half an hour later, he left the library in a good mood, carrying a book with him. The title of the when Shane came down from the 3rd floor of the guild with a book and returned to the guild's 1st floor lobby, an odd feeling made him stop in his tracks. Shane then lifted his eyelids and glanced around. With that glance, Shane noticed the many adventurers casting covert or blatant gazes in his direction. Is it him? Definitely. Doesn't look anything special, though. Not wearing any decent equipment, just a weapon hidden in the bundle on his shoulder. He looks like a rookie, doesn't he? Yeah. I have no idea what's going on. I thought this newcomer would be just like the others before him, kicked out after staying a month in Miss Vivian's squad, or making some foolhardy mistake that Miss TL takes care of. Exactly. Similar whispered conversations reached Shane's ears, barely audible. Perhaps they intended for him to hear? At least, Shane could see that many of those having this conversation were staring straight at him, their eyes full of annoyance and ridicule. Shane's brow quirked in an instant. He could guess from the content and tone of the conversation what must have happened. Because of Vivian and her team? Apparently, the scene of Shane being pulled upstairs by Vivian in the guild's first-floor lobby had rankled these adventurers. This development. Next, it won't become cliché, will it? Shane narrowed his eyes, his heart filled with speechlessness. Such a classic plotline. It just couldn't stir Shane's interest at all. Will someone jump out to be shown up by my coolness? Shane's face wore a look of declining with thanks. Compared to this utterly boring plot, so typical anyone could think up dozens of chapters worth of it with their knees, Shane was far more interested in hurrying back to study magic. Having finally gotten the chance to study magic, Shane had no intention to waste time on something that, apart from showing off, was utterly pointless. Really can't get into this. As Shane sighed silently to himself, he started to step towards the guild's entrance. Meanwhile, he was filtering through all sorts of potential plot developments that could happen next in his mind. Not long after, "Hey you, the newcomer." Just as Shane was about to leave the guild, a tall figure finally appeared in front of him. It was an adventurer, his body covered in muscles, with a blood-stained weapon on his back, a fierce look on his face, resembling a humanoid bear. At that moment, the figure stood in front of the guild's entrance, arms crossed, looking down at Shane from above, his face filled with scorn and a cold smirk. The surrounding adventurers watched this scene, each wearing an expression like they were eager to see a show, as if they were looking forward to what came next. Shane was forced to halt, his head also lowering. Seeing this, the large adventurer cracked a smile. Lee, just as the man began to speak, preparing to say something, Shane suddenly lifted his head. "Kid, you've been making quite a name for yourself lately. Isn't that what you want to say?" Shane's words caused the tall adventurer to freeze. "You?" The tall adventurer opened his mouth again, seemingly wanting to say something more. But Shane didn't give him the chance. "You think just acting calm means you're off the hook? Even if you do that, I'm not going to let you off. Is that what you want to say?" Shane's retort left his opponent from bewildered to dumbfounded. The other man was about to speak again. I'm Triple X, a premier adventurer from Lemidgen, with a level as high as Triple X. For a rookie newbie like you, I could squash you with one hand. Watch yourself and don't make me angry. Is that what you're trying to say?" Shane cut him off again with a single sentence, causing the other's face to twitch and his complexion to turn red with anger. "Don't." The tall adventurer's face turned even redder with rage, and he tried to say something more, yet still failed to do so. "Don't think you could be so arrogant just because Vivian is backing you up. Believe it or not, I can make an example out of you right now. You little punk. That's what you want to say, right?" Shane sighed at the tall adventurer before him, his half-closed eyes appearing utterly disinterested, showing no patience whatsoever. "Sorry, but I'm very clear about what you want to say. I could even come up with several more versions for you. If that's all you've got, could you please step aside? I'm a bit busy right now." Like this, Shane expressed his impatience in the most direct manner, without mincing words. As he spoke, Shane didn't give the other a chance to react, and, holding his book, walked past the tall adventurer. Really, no originality whatsoever. Shane muttered as he left those words behind. His words successfully enraged the tall adventurer. "You?" Driven by anger, the tall adventurer drew his blood-stained weapon from behind his back, turned around, and intended to strike Shane. However, the moment the tall adventurer turned around, a foot entered his field of vision. Thump! With a dull thud, the bear-like tall adventurer was kicked fiercely and sent flying across the guild hall's floor, knocking over countless tables and chairs, and, amid the cries of surprise from the surrounding adventurers, was submerged beneath them. What? That rookie actually made a move? He kicked him flying with a single blow. The surrounding adventurers, who were watching the scene like it was entertainment, were all shocked and began to clamor. At the entrance of the guild, Shane, holding his book, withdrew his foot. Amid the astonished gazes of many adventurers, he uttered in utter disbelief. resorting to violence without a second thought when you feel insulted? As I thought, not a hint of originality. Muttering this, Shane, without a shred of reluctance, turned and left in front of everyone in the Adventurers Guild. The adventurers who witnessed everything were too slow to react. Watching Shane walk away without any regrets, and then at the tall adventurer submerged under countless tables and chairs with a shoe print on his face, seemingly knocked out cold, they lost their words for a moment. It was only when the staff of the Adventurers Guild frantically rushed over that these adventurers started to look at each other, unsure of how to react. But it must be said, Shane's behavior had made a strong impression on them. This newcomer was a tough one. When Riley and Vivian learned about this incident, they both looked at each other and ended up with a mix of laughter and tears. That guy, Vivian was somewhat exasperated. He really is an interesting person. Riley laughed. Afterward, this not-so-small incident became a topic of conversation among the many adventurers. As for what kind of impact it would bring, only God knows. After leaving the Adventurers Guild, Shane directly returned here. For him, the incident at the Adventurers Guild didn't even qualify as an after-dinner amusement. It was completely not worth mentioning. Now, Shane just wanted to get in touch with magic as soon as possible, or even learn it. Under such circumstances, that mundane plot had long been tossed aside. As soon as he returned to the inn, Shane immediately entered his room, locked the door, forcefully shook off his shoes, and jumped onto his bed. Then, still unable to wait, Shane picked up the book Magic Basic Studies and flipped it open. Demon. Upon opening it, Shane immediately saw a large demon character. This character took up an entire page and seemed to possess endless magic power. For some reason, it slightly mesmerized Shane. It has a bit of mystical flavor. Shane felt oddly satisfied with this and turned to the second page. From this page on, the basic knowledge of the concept of magic was explained. Magic, a power that can invoke supernatural phenomena by consuming the magic power present in all living beings, is also the most mysterious and profound knowledge in the world. Magic originally arose from the Demon Clan and was developed by the Demon King as a method of using power. The purpose was to allow the Demon Clan to more efficiently wield their inherently strong magic power, using stronger forces to oppose the divine race. Hence, it is called magic, which means the method adeptly used by the Demon Clan. Later, the supreme god Omenes, based on the same theory, devised holy magic specially for combating the Demon Clan and demons, along with various recovery and support magics, and bestowed them upon the divine race and other races. Magic thus ceased to be an exclusive power of the Demon Clan and became a miracle encountered among all races, gaining widespread popularity in omnipotensin. Today, various kinds of magic and systems have been successively developed and widely disseminated. Magic has become one of the most prestigious powers in the world. Those who specialize in magic and achieve something in the field of magic often hold a higher status than ordinary warriors, as they can often wield powers that common skills cannot achieve. Shane generally understood the origins of magic. This part, previously, Nian had also mentioned a bit to Shane. According to the goddess, magic is a power that can interfere with the world's principle and can realize numerous miracles within the limits allowed by reason, which is why it holds such high esteem. Thanks to this, one needs very high talent and ability to learn magic, because it is a field that can even touch on the world's principle. Why are elves naturally a magical race? It is because elves are beings born from nature, close to nature, and intimate with the world. Thus, every elf is innately a mage, without exception. On the other hand, the Demon Clan naturally emerged due to the influence of the Demon King's magic power, inherently possessing strong magic power, and also almost all capable of using magic. In contrast, most members of the divine race, due to their different roles, don't even know the simplest of magic. However, many of the divine race can use holy, recovery, and support magics, each having their own advantages compared to the Demon Clan. What about me? Shane didn't know if he had the talent to learn magic. In terms of magic power, he should have plenty, but being close to nature and the world? I'm an otherworldly person after all. Shane couldn't help but worry. If only I'd looked at books about heroes to see if past heroes learned magic. Thinking this, Shane nevertheless continued to flip through the book. As for visual effects and power, magic is also divided into levels. Basic magic, intermediate magic, upper-level magic. Generally speaking, magic is divided into these three levels. Basic magic has the weakest effects and power, but the lowest learning requirements. Many warriors who have reached a certain level can also use it, but it will undoubtedly be much weaker relative to their level. Thus, many warriors who meet the learning standards choose not to learn it. Intermediate magic already has effects and power worth looking forward to, which even warriors of level 50 desire to learn, but the requirements for magic power and talent also increase. Ordinary warriors simply can't meet these requirements. If they can, then these warriors can basically learn the magical sword skill. Upper-level magic is recognized for its high power and effective results. It is also the greatest pursuit of many mages. Mages who can use upper-level magic are held in high regard by the nobles and even the royal family. Therefore, mages who manage to learn upper-level magic can generally make a name for themselves, and their status is by no means inferior to that of ordinary nobles. However, to learn magic, one must first acquire the corresponding magic skills. Only those who have acquired the magic fire skill can use the flame series of magic, and only those who have acquired the magic ice skill can use the ice series of magic, and so on. To use any type of magic, one must first learn the corresponding magic skill. Moreover, the level of the magic skills directly determines the level of the magic that can be cast. When a magic skill is at level 1, level 2, or level 3, then only basic magic can be used. When a magic skill is at level 4, level 5, or level 6, then intermediate magic can be used. When a magic skill is at level 7, level 8, or level 9, then upper-level magic can be used. If the level of the magic skills is insufficient, it is outright impossible to cast upper-level magic. This is widely known. Like Marika, because she has upgraded both her magic fire and magic ice skills to level 4. This elf girl can use intermediate magic and basic magic, but she absolutely cannot use upper-level magic. In contrast, Lisha has raised her magic space skill to level 7. Therefore, she can use upper-level space magic, even contorting and annihilating space itself. At the same time, the higher the level of the magic skills, the stronger the power and effects of the magic. And what about level 10? Shane felt puzzled. He flipped through several pages, but did not find any information about what might happen if the magic skill was raised to the full level 10. It might be because this book doesn't cover that aspect, right? Shane somewhat understood. After all, the book was titled Magic Basic Studies, and it was clear that it wouldn't contain really profound content. However, this book did teach how to learn basic magic and the initial steps to mastering magic. To learn magic, acquiring the corresponding magic skills is necessary. But that alone is not enough. To become a qualified mage, one firstly needs to learn two skills. One is the skill to enhance the speed and proficiency of spell chanting. One is the skill to transform the nature and form of magic power through the spirit and mind's will, enabling it to intervene in the world's principle, meditation. Only by learning these two skills can one use magic. Therefore, the book first teaches not the magic itself, but the tricks to acquire. Normally, a mage wishing to use magic had to go through two steps. 1. They had to adjust their state of mind, concentrate their spirit and attention, and, according to the type of magic about to be used, convert their own nature and form of magic power to intervene with the related reason. This step required the acquisition of the meditation skill. The higher the skill level, the faster, more proficient, and more efficient the completion of this step would be. 2. After intervening with the related reason, by chanting a specific magic spell, magic power underwent a second change, driving the change in reason to construct a supernatural phenomenon and realize miracles. This step required the acquisition of the chanting skill. The higher the skill level, the faster, more proficient, and more efficient the completion 2. If skill level were high enough, it would even be possible to shorten the chanting content or even dispense with chanting, directly completing the change so that the magic would take shape. These two mandatory steps meant that any mage must acquire both the meditation and chanting skills. Otherwise, even if they had learned magic skills, magic would be unusable. Before that, had not Vivian mentioned that Marika, as a mage, had not only upgraded her skills in magic fire and magic ice, but also the essential mage skills meditation and chanting? Therefore, any mage must learn the meditation and chanting skills, and the higher the skill level, the better. Otherwise, no matter how high the level of magic skills, the speed of using magic would be surprisingly slow, with even a greater risk of failure. Could it be that Lady's unique skill replaces the function of these two skills? Shane wondered about Lisha's situation. That lady did not need to chant at all to use magic. She didn't even have to recite the name of the spell. With a mere gesture, she could wield magic at will, including upper-level space magic. In her hands, all magic seemed like a superpower that could be instantly activated. Outrageously unfair. She claimed it was the effect of her unique skill, and that unique skill very likely allowed her to skip the steps of meditation and chanting, directly intervening with the reason, causing it to change, and thereby directly shaping magic. This meant that Lisha was very likely unlike ordinary mages, who typically possess the skills meditation and chanting. No wonder she can use such powerful gravity magic, and it seems she can also cast magic from other systems. If there's no need to enhance the meditation and chanting skills, then the saved skill points could be completely spent on learning other types of magic, right? Adding the advantage of instant casting spells, Lisha would certainly not overlook this benefit and would definitely strive to learn a multitude of spells to drastically improve a mage's capabilities. The kind of advantage Lisha held over other mages was quite obvious. Indeed, unique skills are the most important. Once their effects are extraordinary, they can completely overturn the difference brought by levels and skills. While not quite at Shane's level, Lisha was certainly capable of taking on challenges above her rank. Just don't know how high that girl's level is now. Thinking about such things, Shane also began to touch upon acquiring the meditation and chanting skills. In the book, Magic Basic Studies, the author explicitly mentioned the techniques for acquiring these two skills. To learn the meditation skill, one might first attempt to enter a state of meditation, try to empty their thoughts and concentrate their spirit to sense their own magic power, allowing the magic power to fluctuate. As long as one keeps trying this process and has the talent to learn magic, then they will eventually earn the learning qualifications for the skill. To learn the chanting skill, one must repeatedly practice chanting the magic spell. Just like with the meditation skill, as long as one has the talent to become a mage, they can induce changes in magic power by this process of chanting, and upon successfully changing magic power, they generally can acquire the skill. In light of this, the book provided a detailed explanation of the techniques for performing these two steps, how to better sense magic power, focus the spirit, and enter a state of meditation, as well as the kind of magic spells one should practice chanting for a smoother, more fluent, and natural induction of changes in magic power. Various precautions were explained. The book also noted, if following this method, one cannot learn either the meditation or chanting skills before adulthood within 3 years, then it proves that one inherently lacks the talent for acquiring magic, and it is advised to give up on becoming a mage as soon as possible. After adulthood, if one cannot learn either the meditation or chanting skills within 1 year, the reasoning is the same as above. The faster one learns the meditation and chanting skills, the more it proves one's inherent talent as a mage. So, please choose whether to pursue the path of magic according to your own condition, and do not blindly chase after it. Shane took careful note of these contents, and then pondered for a while before making a decision. Let's give it a try anyway. Both meditation and chanting required tedious and persistent effort, achievements that could only be gained over time. It was unlikely to see results in the short term. But Shane still wanted to try, Otherwise, he would not be doing justice to the fact that he had come to this sword and magic otherworld. Good. Thus, having made up his mind, Shane put down the book he was holding and prepared to try entering a state of meditation, following the instructions recorded in the book. First, enter a state of meditation. Try to clear away extraneous thoughts, focus the mind, sense your own magic power, and let the magic power fluctuate. Shane recalled the steps, closed his eyes, and began to try. Shane was well aware that this was a task that required time to complete. Therefore, Shane told himself to be patient, and within a year he had to keep trying, not to be swayed by the distracting thought that he, as an otherworldly person, might not possess the ability to use magic. As the saying goes, sharpening your axe will not delay your work of cutting wood. As long as he put in the effort, even if he wasn't from this world, there would come a day when he could obtain skill, meditation, learn. At this very moment, such a message appeared in Shane's mind. The Shane who had just resolved to put in effort twitched his face and opened his eyes with a strange expression. After a moment of silence, Shane picked up the book Magic Basic Studies again. Repeatedly practiced the chanting of magic spells. Following a few magic spells recorded in the book, Shane began to practice chanting. Obtain skill. Chanting, learn. Very quickly, or rather, in less than a few seconds, a new message appeared in Shane's mind. Shane fell silent. At this moment, Shane felt that his earlier self was like an idiot. Otherworldly people? Worry about what? Almost forgot. I'm a freaking cheat. Conclusion. Shane was capable of learning magic. And probably, no one could be more talented as a mage than him, an otherworldly person. Lamidjan, on the outskirts of the town. At this time, Shane had just walked out of the town and entered a sparsely populated suburban area, delving into a small hill to find a rather open sandy spot. Should it be okay here? Shane surreptitiously glanced around and then, as if relieving a held breath, set aside the Magic Basic Studies book he had been holding and entered the center of the sandy area. The purpose of coming here was naturally to experiment with the use of magic. Although it was possible to experiment in the inn without making such a big fuss about going to a place like this, Shane had not forgotten the commotion caused last time he learned the magical sword, and for safety's sake, he ultimately chose to come here cautiously. It feels a bit like once bitten, twice shy. Shane himself was wryly smiling. From Magic Basic Studies, Shane had learned 4 types of basic magic, which were also the only 4 types of basic magic recorded in the book. According to the book, each person is proficient in different magic systems, and even if one has the talent to become a mage, one still needs to find a most suitable magic system for oneself. Some people are proficient in attack series magic. Some people are proficient at defense series magic. Some people are proficient at recovery series magic. Some people are proficient at support series magic. Just like with skills, depending on the preferred system, the path of a mage is different. It even extends into each category within each system. For instance, some people are proficient in flame magic within the attack series, while others in frost magic within the same series. Each person's talents and abilities thus determine their future roles, which need to be approached with caution. Because practicing magic usually takes a lot of time, if one works too hard in the wrong direction for too long, not only is time wasted, but also talents and skill points, which results in a loss greater than the gain. Therefore, for a mage, besides the mandatory meditation and chanting, the first thing to do is to find the direction one is good at to avoid wasted effort. For example, Marika specializes in both flame and frost magic, as her talents seem to be highest in these 2 types, focusing only on these systems without learning others. On the other hand, Lisha, the lady, in addition to space and gravity magic, seems to be proficient in many systems of magic. It is unclear whether it is because she genuinely has a talent for magic or some other reason. Magic Basic Studies records just these 4 most basic and also most elementary magics, aiming to let people try and practice these 4 types of magic to preliminarily determine which magic system they are proficient in. The systems of magic are numerous, as are the types, but among these, The magics that clearly display attributes and directions are undoubtedly the easiest to learn and understand. This statement comes from Magic Basic Studies. This means, among the many systems of magic, attribute magic is the most suitable for beginners to touch on and learn. The so-called attribute magic refers to the most common systems of magic, such as flame magic, frost magic, thunder magic, and wind magic, etc. Because adding clear attributes makes the magic easier to change over when used, attribute magic requires the lowest talent for mages, and the difficulty of learning and improvement is far lower compared to other systems of magic. Accordingly, the book records 4 kinds of basic attribute magic: flame, frost, thunder, and wind, for beginners to learn. By studying these 4 types of magic simultaneously, one can preliminarily understand their most proficient magic system. After all, in the same period of learning, whichever type of magic can be used fastest demonstrates a person's highest talent and ability in that magic system. Shane came here to try these 4 basic magics. According to the book, as long as one has learned the skills of meditation and chanting, one can, at the earliest in one day and at the latest within a month, utilize magic from one of the systems. Shane recollected this information with mixed feelings. A day at the earliest, a month at the latest, it's probably best not to take this too seriously. At least, certainly, I am not within this category. Shane had reason to believe that his performance to come could not be judged by common standards. Let's begin. Shane then cleared his mind of distractions, allowing himself to become an unfeeling machine to avoid being overwhelmed by what was coming. Next, Shane reviewed the spells of the 4 basic magic skills he had just acquired while reaching out with his hand toward the front. First, Shane tried the flame magic. Burn crimson magic power. Chanting the simple basic magic spell, the magic power within Shane began to transform. It first started to flow, then suddenly became hot, and flowed toward the hand Shane had stretched out, becoming like a red flame that ignited from his palm. Tinder. For the first time in his life, Shane used magic. But, boom! In the empty, sandy area, accompanied by a thunderous explosion, a scorching blast of fire erupted from Shane's hand, blowing up the sand in front of him and sending dust flying. A scorched crater appeared in the sand. The crater was at least 4 meters in diameter. Gain skill, magic fire, learn. A second later, Shane very smoothly acquired his first magic skill. However, looking at the charred crater in front of him, Shane fell into a prolonged silence. If I remember correctly, this most basic spell of the Flame series is supposed to only ignite a tree and produce a flame the size of a palm, right? Shane dare not say too much or think too much. He could only learn the skill first before attempting the other 3 basic magic. Coalesce, icy blue magic power. Freezing, shine, brilliant magic power. Lightning. Stir, invisible magic power. Breeze. In these similar basic magic spell chants, Shane successively executed 3 types of attribute magic from different systems. These were the 4 most basic and elementary magic recorded in Magic Basic Studies. So, gain skill, magic ice, learn. Gain skill, magic thunder, learn. Gain skill, magic wind, learn. Without any surprise, Shane smoothly acquired the magic skills. But, in front of Shane, the entire sandy area now contained an icy patch, a large crater, and a sky filled with wind-blown sand, leaving Shane unable to regain his composure for a long time.